Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The time is 6:15. I'm going to call this meeting to order. This is a special meeting of the Howell Township Mayor and Council on our proposed 2006 municipal budget. Mr. Davis, would you please read the appropriate opening statement and call the roll?
Yes, sir. Let the minutes reflect that adequate notice of the holding of this special meeting of the Howell Township Council was provided for in the following manner. By the posting of a copy of said notice upon the bulletin board in the Township Municipal Building on March 27, 2006. By the faxing of a copy of said notice to the Asbury Park Press and the Star Ledger for publication and to the Tri-Town News for their information on March 27, 2006. And by the filing of a copy of said form of notice in the Township Clerk's office on March 27, 2006. The public will be allowed to attend and will be allowed to participate pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Law. The public is reminded that civility and decorum will be maintained during the meeting. Any contracts awarded at this meeting or between now and the next meeting will be required to comply with the requirements of the public laws of 1975, Chapter 127, NJAC 17:27. In accordance with the Fire Prevention Code, be advised that this facility is designed with 3 emergency exits for your safety. The locations are as follows. Upon exiting the meeting room to the rear, they are to immediate left and immediate right, and at the front of the meeting room to the left of the dais. Furthermore, smoking is not permitted in the municipal building. Please take note that this meeting is being videotaped for future broadcast on Howell Township TV 77.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Malavey.
He is on 195. He should be here momentarily.
Mrs. Showmaker.
Present.
Mr. Tabasco. I believe Mr. Tabasco said he would not be in attendance tonight. Mr. Walsh.
Here.
Mayor DeBell.
Here. Okay, Mr. Zanecki, I'll turn over to you just to give us the rundown on the departments we're going to hear from tonight, sir.
Okay. First, all the departments that are listed, except the sewer department. There will not be a presentation from the sewer department, as Mr. Nunziato was scheduled to make that observation, and he's on personal leave for the rest of this week. And
Who are the others again, just to read in the record?
The tax assessor, the Office of Emergency Management, Buildings and Grounds, Capital Budget, the municipal clerk, municipal finance officer, and municipal manager.
Okay.
Okay, and
Should be out of here early.
there is also a memo, I believe it was distributed to the council, outlining a general schedule for when we need to get the budget adopted and completed. So at the end of our meeting today, we're gonna push to try to set up a follow-up meeting where we can really kind of, you'll have time at the end of this meeting till the next one where you could digest what you've heard. You'll go back with the capital worksheets, and then we want to schedule a meeting in the next couple of weeks where we can really start bearing down, because we need to have the budget adopted by the end of June, the latest, in order to not conflict with our tax bills. And the only other note I'd like to make is that we're inviting the department heads to sit up here with the team where there's close access to the smelling salts in case they're needed. And so we're going to start with the tax assessor, Mr. Lenahan.
Good evening, Mr. Lenahan. Welcome.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening.
What we have done in former years, as you know, is we typically will turn it over to you to give us any opening remarks with respect to your department, what's happening, issues, what have you, related to the budget. And then if you could call our attention to the appropriate pages in the budget appropriation in the J pages, we can go from there.
The department is proceeding as normally functioning. We are currently undergoing
Hold
a
on
revamp.
1 second, if you don't mind. I think Mr. Filiatro has a comment.
I was just going to mention, it's on page J4 is the operating budget, and there is one capital on G1.
Great. Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Lenahan.
Sorry, Tom.
So J4, okay.
Don?
Sorry. Yes.
Yeah. I do, while we're gearing up, I do want to make one note that there is a typographical error in the printout that Tom brought to my attention, and the dues that he requested is not $50. There's missing a zero there. It should be $500 is his request.
All right, Mr. Lenahan, you want to walk us through?
Yes, there has been, I have made no recommendations as far as salaries, et cetera, is concerned. My operating budget is fairly simple as far as the assessment of taxes is concerned. It hinges around actually our other professional consultants. Our other professional consultants actually consists of actually the record recording, the record access fees actually from the county, our binders, our maintaining of our software, our Chapter 75 notices. Last year, we overspent our budget. It was set at 15,000. We went a little bit over that. I'm expecting a steadily increasing bills actually from the vendors. I put in actually to be secure this year, to raise it to $20,000 up from 15 from last year. That is the major gist of that. My dues actually went from 300 to 500. I now have a deputy who's interested actually in a national association, which I believe is somewhere around 150 to 175. Therefore, the increase went from 300 to 500. And my training and education went from is basically the same as far as 2000 is concerned. It satisfied us last year. I believe actually that in fact will satisfy us again this year.
And just let the record reflect that Councilman Malabe has arrived at 6:20.
That is my O&E.
Before we go off the O&E, anyone have any questions or comments on the O&E? And please forgive us, this is typically a working dinner meeting, so if we are eating in your presence, it's only a function of necessity, so we don't pass out while we're up here tonight.
Similar. Overtime.
Go ahead, you have a question?
While
The
you're eating
overtime?
too, please, there is birthday cake in the back that you can have for dessert too.
Whose birthday? Oh, happy birthday, Mr. Filiatro.
It's 49.
27 again?
49
49.
again.
49 again?
And a young 49 at that.
Yes.
The overtime is for,
The overtime actually is more or less actually a fallback if in fact we have a problem as far as the ad assessment is concerned or any other type of problems that might occur unexpectedly. We were
Okay.
told last year actually not to spend any overtime if in fact at all possible. We did not. I actually asked for it to be removed totally, but although the CFO felt a little more comfortable with respect to actually having a little bit in there just in case if we needed something at the end of the year to make the goal.
I'm concerned over the fact that this is the year that we're going to have the appeals and the informal appeal process on the reval where they'll meet with the office staff, they'll meet with the assessment company to discuss their assessments prior to it being certified at the end of the year. And I'm a little concerned leaving them with nothing in overtime. Certainly, Tom's not the type of division head or anything to spend the money just because it's there. And I just thought it was prudent. $1,000 didn't seem like a whole lot of money to leave in there, given the fact that this is the year that the reevaluation will be certified.
Any other questions on J4? Okay. All right, so we'll go to the Capitol.
Absolutely, sir. The capital, my department experienced actually a loss of a vehicle in November of '05. I was left actually with only one vehicle for the department. I had to basically scrounge around for about a 2-month period using other vehicles that were not desired by other departments. I eventually ended up actually, the Public Works came to my rescue, for lack of a better word, actually provided me with a vehicle that I found to be acceptable. I put the capital in at the request of Jeff actually, as far as when Neon was down, that we didn't have anything. I spoke with Tom subsequent, and he indicated actually that he has in mind a plan, so whether, what you want to do with this, I really don't know. But however, it was satisfied as far as, we're back with 2 vehicles.
You want to comment, Tom?
All the departments are making requests for vehicles, and council commented at our last budget meeting that it would make sense to have a rational replacement plan. It's something we've been researching. There is a level at which vehicles cost more in terms of personnel to maintain than they do to replace. And what we are going to do is, and we've started this already, obtain some national standards based on well-documented studies to tell you how many mileage for a particular type of vehicle, and then we're going to rate all the requests based on their mileage, based on the mission criticalness of the request, and a couple other criteria, and come up with a score. And based on that score, we're going to make a recommendation on the vehicle replacements that we're recommending across the organization.
So you'll advise us on this? Is what
Yes. Yes.
So on this one, do we leave this in for now?
Yes, but leave it in for now.
Okay. Any other comments, Mr. Lenahan?
I have no other comments as far as my budget is concerned. I believe it's fairly clear cut and hasn't changed an awful lot as far as the last few years that in fact I've been here. What I would like to do actually is I would like to bring the council up to speed as far as the reval is concerned. I haven't spoken with you individuals in a while. It's proceeding well. Again, they have probably, out of the 16,000 residential properties that in fact they have to inspect, they have probably done, well, they have done about 6,500, about 40% of them. They have done about half of the commercial properties. They are working in developments of Candlewood, Salem Hill, Oak Glen, and on the other side, actually, Glen Arden, Tanglewood, and Heritage Point. They are proceeding actually over I-95 at this time. Okay, they hope to be over I-95 actually by June. They are sending some teams actually to some condo areas as far as the villages is concerned. They started this week. They're also starting the Point of Woods. They have spoken with their administration there. They've been on their TV stations. They've been actually, as far as the internet is concerned, and everything is proceeding normally there. They're proceeding in the correct way. They have the right people there doing the inspections. They don't have to go, they don't have to measure it. They're all pre-drawn. But it's just a matter of going in there and noting the condition of the property, et cetera, et cetera.
Wonderful.
So things are proceeding fairly well there. We get calls every day, but I haven't had any type of bad situation. Matter of fact, I have a letter of accommodation. If you want to read it, I'm not going to bore you on that, but although there is pros and cons as far as the work being done by the organization at this time. And if there's any questions that I may be able to address right now, we have had 6 meetings. The last one was on a Saturday in March, I believe March the 4th. Again, we went to the villages. They did not request a meeting. Anybody who requests a meeting, we will have it at this time. It's just a matter of again, the village, there's only 600 units out there. Surdown, there's only 500 units out there. They're not major, massive complexes. So whether they want it or not, we're available. All they have to do is ask us.
Terrific. Any questions on the revaluation,
Yeah,
Mr.
Tom,
Norman?
just a quick question,
Yes,
if
sir.
I may. The areas that they have already gone through and possibly completed, if they miss, I'm sure they missed a few homes in every area of the town
absolutely,
for
sir.
whatever reasons.
Yes.
Would they go back at some point and revisit those areas, or would that be done through appointments with them, with the office?
It would be done actually through informal hearings. What will happen actually is that people who they haven't contacted, and there are people that they haven't, they will in fact receive a notice as far as what their new value is going to be by the revaluation. At that particular time, actually, they may call them. If in fact there was an inspection done, they may arrange one at that particular time. That will be later on in the year. I would estimate maybe November.
Okay, so they will go back and revisit those homes that they haven't,
Yes, they will, sir.
they will.
Absolutely. They want to get,
Any other questions,
they want to
Mr.
get the job right. They want to get the data right.
When do you think it'll be finalized?
Well, I'm hoping the end of the year. We had a couple setbacks, but but they're back on schedule. The weather is a huge issue, and it has been a relatively good spring thus far. I mean, the daylight saving time. They have 16 people out there doing anywhere from 90 to 100 units a week.
Wow.
Okay, so
Busy then. It's going well
they're
then.
in big production. They're in big production. They're going to finish here. Then they're going to Jackson. They're going to Middletown. So they're not going anywhere.
Right.
They're a group that's here, that they are based here, and I have a great deal of confidence in them.
You said
Wonderful.
Middletown. They're also doing the
I
Middletown work?
believe they're hoping to get that piece. They bid brick. They didn't get that. They bid Dover, they didn't get that, but they didn't want them, actually, they were a bit too large. Middletown's nice for them, it's in the geographical location, they don't have to send their people too far as distance is concerned, so they want to be basically a Monmouth County-based firm.
Good.
Great.
No other one.
Any other questions on the reval? All right, I think, anything else for the tax department, Mr. Zanecki, Mr. Filiatro?
No.
Okay, thank you for coming out, and
Okay.
thank you for your assistance with this reval. It's certainly a challenging process, to say the least,
Well put, sir.
so we appreciate your helping shepherd us through this.
Absolutely. Anytime you want to see me, just give a call and
Thank you.
I'll come up, okay?
We appreciate it. I think we,
The next victim is emergency management. Page J12 for your operating.
hold on, you can't hear him?
I could barely hear Tom for some reason. So,
We'll have to make
can
sure.
Yeah, if you
make
could
sure
maybe
your
just-
phones are on, please?
Or bend the mics a little closer, Mr. Malabi.
Can you hear me?
No,
I
actually.
just had a birthday, so I'm getting, I'm losing my hearing.
Is the red light on? Is that when
The
is
red
it?
light is on.
It is,
I can
okay.
hear you now.
Now you can, when
Okay.
you talk loud. Good evening, Mr. Sanasak, OEM Coordinator. Welcome.
Good evening. Mayor, Council,
J12.
J12,
Clerk.
There
Everybody?
there are several items of capital, too.
you want to go to J12 first? The operating, Mr. Sanasak, we appreciate your coming out this evening. The process, as you probably recall from former years, is if you could perhaps give us a general overview of the mechanics of your budget and anything you'd like to add that we should know about as we consider your operating expenses. After we go through J12, we'll then ask you to walk us through any of the rationale behind the capital items.
Certainly. Our budget is based mostly on the demands and requirements of the community as it grows. Our department is growing quite nicely. We've probably quadrupled our membership over the past 2.5, 3 years. We have a very active CERT program, which is Community Emergency Response Teams. A number of the changes in the budget, although small and minor, are primarily based on the enhanced response capabilities since 9/11 that we've been asked to take on. We've been very successful in receiving grants in monetary grants as well as equipment grants to enhance our ability to protect the township. We've been very active with the county and the state, enhancing our networks and our liaisons so that we can draw on other resources so we don't have to be in everything alone. And we're developing quite a good relationship with West Trenton. I sit on the County Grants Working Group for the past 2 years, which has been very, very helpful in bringing more equipment and monetary grants Hal's way. And hopefully the budget reflects those enhanced capabilities and we'll be ready to take care of the issues. Hopefully they never come up, but if they come up. The operating budget, you'll see a big increase on account 305. We operate quite a bit with the fire companies and first aids.
Which one is 305, Mr.
I'm
Sanasak?
sorry, uniforms.
They don't have account numbers on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Uniforms is the account title. The 05 appropriation was $1,500, and we're requesting $5,500. We have an obligation to outfit the people who are going to respond in some of the more hazardous situations, be it hazmat or confined space or high-angle rescue, with it's referred to as turnout gear in the vernacular of emergency services, the fire suits that you see the firemen and other agencies wear. We're getting 9 sets from the county health department, has given us a portion of their grant because we operate with them on quite a few hazmat calls. We are their second backup and they are our first backup. And they gave Howell members 9 sets of turnout, and we want to complete our members, and that will allow us to finish that team with the appropriate personal protective equipment. Safety supplies is the same as last year. That's some of the minor stuff, the gauze, the caution tape, flares, and things like that we use on a routine basis. Sometimes we use it all and need to go find more, and other times we have good years and we can carry some forward. This year we do plan on using a lot of, or we need to replace a lot of that stuff that we used last year, some for training and some for response. We're very active on training to keep everybody on the cutting edge. The photos and minor equipment has stayed the same. The meals awards we've actually reduced. We found that we can usually rely on the hospitality of some of the local businesses and things like that when we are on a call. And also we purchase food for stock from the State Department of Agriculture, and it's very inexpensive, and we can stock up on some staples that way. So we've reduced that by $250. Specialized expenses, we've asked to go up $500. That is some of the meters and some of the. So I guess you could say it's bittersweet. I consider it all sweet because our capabilities are so high. But some of the equipment that we've gotten have parts that expire, and you just have to replace them. Or the $10,000 meter is no good if you don't buy the $500 cartridge when it expires. They all have a shelf life. So we do need to increase that. As we get more sophisticated, we also will have a few more expenses that we just have to cover.
Ron, what kind of
Yes.
meter are you referring to?
Mostly, we have radiological, biological, chemical meters that have tubes and reagents and strips and different things like that that have a shelf life of 2 to 5 years. Some of them that we got in the first round of the Department of Homeland Security grants are now, we haven't used them, thank God, and they are now at the end of their shelf life and need to be replaced.
Okay.
The physicals, anybody by POSHA requirements, this was new a year and a half ago, and we added it to the budget. We have to have a baseline and current physical for each of the people that will respond to a hazardous environment. So according to POSHA regs, we need to fund that. We do have a doctor that will do them very efficiently for $95 a piece, and we do have our team covered.
So you have 20 people? Is that correct? If you're asking for
Yes.
$1,800? Okay.
It's actually 19, so I have one extra. That
Okay.
if somebody else, we are always recruiting. We get new members. I'm sorry. We get new members monthly. We're really doing good. A lot of are doing well. Excuse me. A lot of people are interested, and they're also interested in forming new teams and expanding the OEM's capabilities, which will only enhance our ability to respond to the public needs. Just as a sideline, if I may, we started a new remote access search team, and they were called out 3 times already in the first 2 months of their existence. The most recent for a lost young man over on Overlook, who he was the only one who didn't know he was lost. It was a great thing. He walked around the corner and said, "Here I am, what's the hubbub?" But, I mean, it has been put into action, and we are responding to the needs of the public. Equipment maintenance, similar to the specialized expenses. In addition to the things that are disposable and need to be replaced for the meters, they also have to be calibrated on a regular basis by an accredited calibration firm. It's not something you can do yourself. It's the safety of the responders. You're putting someone's life on the calibration of a meter for, say, carbon monoxide or methane or something like that. It has to be right, and just both for their protection and, although it's not the primary cause, for the protection of the township as a liability, we have to make sure the meters are adequately calibrated and up to snuff. Communication maintenance, I feel bad, I almost sound like a broken record. Due to our increased membership, we have more communication equipment out there, and therefore we need to fix more of them. They break and things go down. Books and publications has remained constant. Quite a bit of the information in this age of technology is available on the internet, and we don't have to subscribe to as many magazines. The ones that we do, the cost has actually gone up, but some of them we don't need because we can get the information other ways through the internet and other functions. Training, we try to create a training program so that everybody has something to elevate themselves to, or a goal to make, and we try to make it so that they want to continue to learn and be more valuable. Quite a bit of the training is available free through Monmouth County Fire Academy and other academies, but some of the dive and other classes, confined space and things, have to be paid for. So, but that budget has remained constant. Dive equipment is a I'm sorry, what was that term you used for the vehicles? Rational replacement. It's basically some of this stuff wears out, and it just doesn't have the elasticity in life that we'd like, and on a routine basis, we replace it. Same thing with communications. The new item from last year was the CERT class equipment, and that I can't say enough about that program. It's been very successful. We have 2 more graduations coming up. One Monday night, we now will have a team in the high school. We have a team in most of the elementary schools already. Zena Durbig, the principal of How High, was foresighted enough to ask for a team, and they will be graduating at the Regional Board of Ed meeting this Monday night. And we have what I think is the first in the county, and I want to make sure, we have a team graduating May 3rd at the Crossroads Senior Apartment Living. It will be the first completely senior citizen team, and they wish to make sure that their building is safe, and that's a great thing. So they're graduating May 3rd at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. If anybody can make that, it should be a really great event. Some people from the State Police Barracks in West Trenton will be attending also to honor these people.
Ron, just for the sake of the public,
Yes.
it's being televised also. Can you kind of describe what CERT is?
Certainly. I could go on all night, but CERT stands for Community Emergency Response Teams. It is one of the categories under the Citizen Corps, which is the National FEMA program for volunteerism. It includes other things that you may recognize as Neighborhood Watch and Volunteers in Policing and those programs. CERT is just another program within it. It is a training program, 8 weeks, 2.5 hours each lesson, that touches on emergency medical, fire, hazmat, search and rescue, terrorism, the CERT organization itself, and it has a double in emergency medical, and that makes up the 8 categories. It's a very enjoyable class. It's eye-opening. Most people that have taken it have all stayed very active. The FEMA funds it. We have trainers, myself, Bob Lewis of the Fire Bureau are both trainers, and Captain Mayfield does the terrorism module. It's a very interesting class. At graduation, they get a duffel bag of preparedness equipment, all provided by New Jersey State Police from FEMA, and they are asked to participate on the team. It stresses self-preservation first, and the theory is that even if they are trained and only take care of themselves in an emergency, that's one more person that the 911 center does not have to deal with. If, as a bonus, they can take care of their family or expand that to their neighbors and community, it's just that much more of a bonus. And it's been a very successful program. Monmouth County leads the state, and I'm glad to say Howell leads Monmouth County. So we are the #1 community in the state for the CERT program. There are a lot of others involved, but we continue to make strides, and with the new graduations, we'll be way ahead of them.
That's great. That's terrific. Thank you.
Thank
All right.
you.
Up to the salaries, how many employees fall under the just the salary account?
There, I'm sorry.
You have that? You have the grants and stuff?
Yes. Yes, I do. We have, there are no full-time employees. There's a stipend for the coordinator, which is me. Robert Hotmar, Chief Hotmar of the Fire Bureau, is the deputy coordinator. We have a staff member, Gary Davison, who really, we could look at that differently. He is a billing clerk, if you will. We bring in about $18,000 a year on what's called the Community Right to Know survey. There's an ordinance on the books that every business has to file a document stating what hazardous chemicals and what hazardous situations exist in their business. And he is really taking care of that. So from his salary, we net directly $16,000. So with the advent of a lot of new forms and a lot of new reporting, I am asking for one additional deputy coordinator position to take care of some of the other functions of response, and have also somebody that can respond in the field when I'm tied up on a different circumstance. We have had a couple incidents where there are different areas of the town that needed to be covered.
So is that on the list that someone's keeping of the requests for add to staff?
Yes.
Okay.
It's there. If you're looking at the worksheets, which of course you see the net, there was a request. It's actually a $2,500 request for the additional staff for a part-time basis. However, there is a new FEMA grant that I understand the award papers are coming in shortly.
Yes.
For $5,000. Therefore, that's why the net on the worksheet shows a minus 2,500.
Thank you. I got all carried away with certain, forgot to mention, one of the grants that we did qualify for was, it's called EMA, Emergency Management Assistance, and it is directly for towns that have division to pay the salary, and it's 50% assistance on the salaries. So this year, we were awarded $5,000 to compensate for the salary spent. So that was, and thank you for reminding me, that was one of the rationales for the extra position also.
All right, so we said there's also capital, unless,
Yes.
does anyone have any questions on J12? Okay. What page on the capital?
All right, first one is right on G1. There's an OEM command vehicle. Mr. Santek.
Yes, we presently have two units. One is a canteen and one is a radio truck. And we're looking to consolidate those two functions. The canteen is I believe it's a 1982 Grumman step van, and it is, if not very close to the end of its useful life. We refurbished it after Southern Fire Department's auxiliary was done with it. And we have kept it in service, and it has responded. But as I said, it's not the most dependable, and it's not something we want to rely on. The radio truck is another Grumman step van, which would be stripped and placed back into service as a confined space high-angle rescue vehicle. The reason is that we are stepping up and responding a lot more in unified command style, which is a term which means multi-agency command. We are responding with it's MOCERT, but for most people they refer to as the SWAT team. We respond with that program. We respond with county agencies, and the command van will be a place for the planning and the function to go forward on scene so that we can communicate with the other agencies. It would have like a small conference room, a small radio room, and then a place for transport of individuals.
For $100,000, it should have those thruster packs like the Batmobile, for God's sakes.
I left the jacuzzi out. No, just kidding. I'm sorry.
My God.
Well, it's specialized equipment. And
Talk about grants.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
Do we get any grant funds
Yeah, he talked about
from
that
the
when he
county?
stepped down.
yes, we've gotten, in the last 18 months, there was a memo. It's been about 100, I don't remember the exact amount, because some of it's equipment, but it's over $130,000 worth of material, equipment, and funds, as well as some sharing, as I mentioned, the county health. That grant did not come to us, but they're buying us equipment with their grant money. So that's not a direct grant, but it's definitely a benefit to the township.
Ron, is there presently a command vehicle?
Yes, we do have a step van now that serves as the radio truck.
Is
It
that
does
the
not-
1982? You said
No,
there's
that's
two
the
of them.
canteen. That's the kitchen, if you will. It's like a
Okay.
mobile we call it the canteen, mobile kitchen.
And it's transported, what, on axle or something? I mean, how does it get around?
No, it is it's like a bread truck.
Okay.
So you sit in the front, and the back is a big high cube.
And what year is that vehicle?
That's the 82,
That's
the
the
kitchen.
82.
The other one, I believe, is a 96. We have two. If it's not a 96, it's a 97. We have one of 96 and one of 97 vintage.
Does the county have one of these OEM command vehicles as well?
The county has two field comms, is the way they refer to them. They don't have the same planning area, but they do have the radio and the other aspects.
How often is the current OEM command vehicle dispatched?
It gets dispatched to, I would say, 80% of the calls, because that function is needed no matter what the hazard is. You need to be able to contact county. You need to be able to get communication back to our local PD, and we need to be able to access, say, Jersey Central or New Jersey Natural Gas or the Red Cross, depending on what the catastrophe or the response situation is. So it doesn't always get set up, because like the lost child, it gets resolved before we need to, but it was on its way to that call, and had it been a lengthy search, it would have been the spot where we worked.
When you say 80% of the time, could you, and this could be something you couldn't answer, could you tell me approximately how many calls you went out on last year?
I could research it and get back to you. I don't have a number now. We average, several calls a month. I don't have an exact number. I wouldn't want to quote it.
Okay.
So we have access to the county vehicle, it comes now if we need a command vehicle?
We can call for the county command vehicle so long as it's not otherwise dispatched. There are quite a few times when it is, both of those, they have two, where they are tied up.
So this is going to get swept under, Mr. Zanecki, your sort of global look at vehicles?
Actually, at this point, my study is focused on cars and
Okay.
fleet, our basic fleet.
Mm-hmm.
However, I will comment in terms of the mileage and the cost of maintenance. I want to look at those records when I look at these specialized vehicles. So council knows what it costs to maintain these things once they've peaked.
Mm-hmm.
And if I may add one more thing in response to Councilman Walsh's question, there have been more times when we back the county up because we are the county's third field comm. That's part of the mutual aid type of relationship. There are more times where we responded to make up that they needed a third than that they had to come in and back us up. When we did the top-off drill out at Brookdale, our truck was out there. We'll be involved. We're involved in another drill this year on May 18th, a very large countywide drill, and we'll be setting up a local Howe Township distribution center so that our first responders would get, hypothetically, get their pills so they could be safe to take care of the rest of the community. And our radio truck is an integral part of that. So we're called on as part of the task force, if you will, also.
Okay. Is there anything else in capital? I mean, clearly, as you can appreciate, we have to inventory
Absolutely.
everybody's requests and then go back and revisit them in terms of prioritization, what we need to do.
Absolutely. And I will be applying for other grants for some of this material, too, and it could offset it. Right now, we don't have any approved, but we were very successful last year. Also in capital, there are...
Two items on page G5. About the middle of the page.
G5, middle of the page.
OEM Communications Support System and OEM Light Tower.
All right, so communication support system, tell us about this.
We have a program that we've been working on that has already been significantly funded through the cooperation of the police department and the OEM and also county radio, where the new OEM building that is going along well at this point will serve as a redundant dispatch for our police department. They have some specific needs. They're funding through their upgrade grant a major part of it, and the deficit for the remainder of the funding is that $15,000, so that it will be a fully functional dispatch center should this police department be compromised for any reason. If you recall, we had the lightning strike a couple years ago where they were out of service, and sounds like a commercial endorsement, but our radio truck served as the redundant dispatch for some time. They weren't able to do 911, and that's one of the things that they want to make sure they can do in the new center, and that's what the balance of that money is allocated for.
Okay. And the light tower, is this the one to bring out on a temporary basis to the emergency scenes?
Yes. Similar, we have one, and it has been very busy. In fact, it was out last night. There's one polling place where they do not have adequate lighting, and Board of Elections cited, I think is the right word, Howe Township and said they needed more lights. So every election, OEM sets up the light tower at the church and lights up the polling place so that everybody's safe going in and out of the voting machines.
Just as an aside, can we maybe, this is probably more through Mr. Davis, can't we ask the county to find a place that's better lit so we don't have to have our lights every year lighting this area?
Well, actually, it's every election.
Every election, right? Well,
It's
right, every year. It's an
primaries,
election every year.
primaries, board election, and general.
Yeah, primaries, Board of
Board of Ed.
Education, general, so at least 3 times a year.
It's
Which district, what area is this?
West Farms Road. It's
I didn't mean to start.
Emmanuel Bible Church.
Okay, it just strikes me that they need to find a place that is
They're
more adequately,
I'm sorry.
that's okay, they should find a place that can adequately
Well,
address.
It's not them, it's us, me, who has to find the polling place.
All right, well,
And they're
then-
few and far to come, you know, they're not. they're
I
not
used to
planning-
vote in a motorcycle shop, so.
That's
I
right.
mean, there are places that can be found, I'm sure.
I
Okay,
didn't
if you
mean
say
to,
so.
I didn't mean to start something. I'm
No, you
sorry.
didn't, but-
I was saying that anecdotally. Also, when Recreation has, say, the Halloween at Echo Lake and things of that nature, we're also called on for that. We're not just emergency response. Sometimes it's planned events. It does go out to a number of emergency responses, but it's also planned events through Recreation, through Buildings and Grounds. We used it over Labor Day for the DUI stop. We were cooperating with the police department to light up I think it was the Sizzler down there near the end of 9 towards Lakewood, and they had a DUI initiative going on. So we worked cooperatively with quite a few groups, and we could absolutely deploy a second one quite a few times.
Is that it on Capitol? How's the building coming?
It's coming along very well. The outside is graded, the doors are on. Mr. Chernicki and George Gravatt and several other staff members met last week, and we talked about the process, and we're going forward with completing the office space. The space for the trucks is done. We're waiting to give the concrete a little time to cure, and we'll start parking in it probably at the end of next week.
Whatever you do, please don't put a plaque with my name on that building. Okay? Promise me that?
As you wish.
It's just a little side humor. Is there anything else from a capital perspective? Is that it? Any questions from the council? Well, thanks, Mr. Sanisak.
Thank you, and
Great
thank you
job, as
for all
always.
your support, and if you ever have any questions, I think
I know
feel
we
free
are
to call.
working on, and I think Mrs. Zernecki is working on an updated date. I had asked, for the benefit of the council and I, that we get briefed on, in executive session, emergency management plans, provisions, so that we all have an up-to-date handle on, God forbid, in the event of a crisis in the municipality, things that would need to be done. And it's obviously privileged because in the event of some sort of terrorist threat or whatever the situation may be, those are privileged materials that we would not want certain individuals to, God forbid, get their hands on. So
Yes.
I know you're working on a date, and I think the council and I would benefit from that briefing.
absolutely look forward to it.
Thanks. Anything else, Mr. Singh?
I do, just so council's aware, Mr. Sanisak, as all volunteers in our community, donate a lot of their time, and as you've often said, Mayor, they're sort of our unsung heroes sometimes. Fortunately, I have an opportunity to work with Mr. Sanisak really on a weekly basis, and he has taken an extraordinary amount of his time to help coordinate and sort of be a point person on the construction project, in addition to his coordinating activities as the OEM coordinator. And I'd just like to point out how much that really takes a lot of time coordinating permits and trying to save costs with other issues like ADA accessible bathrooms and things like that, finding volunteers who would put their stamp on plans and things like that. All that takes a lot of time, and it's really outside the scope of what you would normally think of. And that's in addition to keeping me constantly informed on exercises that they're involved in over the weekend, and actual emergencies that they're called on to, letting me know as a full-time staff person exactly what resources were expended, what lessons were learned, that sort of stuff. So really a great deal of time and effort goes into this position, and I just want to thank Mr. Sanisak
We
and make sure
appreciate
council's aware of the man-hours that are given in for what we're paying in a budget.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for that, Mr. Sanisak. We do appreciate everything you do for the
Thank you.
community. Thank you very much. Good to see you. I think Buildings and Grounds Capital, is that what's up next?
Yes, sir.
All right.
It's scheduled for 7:15.
Okay, so why don't we
So
go on to...
we're a little early.
You want to go to Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Go to the clerk's department? Okay. So where are we, Mr. Davis? What page?
So we're going to do Mr.
All
Davis
right.
first?
J2, clerk's office. All right, Mr. Davis, what do you have for us?
For the most part, the budget is pretty static. It usually is. We have a reduction in overtime, as you can see. elections over time. We have, if you go to special consultants, you'll notice a significant drop. That was for the transcriber. We did away with that. It's not kind of mid-year kind of thing. And I allowed 1,500 because there are times when we will need the transcriber from time to time, but not on a regular basis, which saves us around $20,000. Now, Jeffrey, I'm looking at your, under postage, that says elections.
Before you go to postage, if
Yes.
I may, under advertising,
Go ahead.
it was explained to me that the sheriff's office recently put the advertising out to bid and awarded it to the Star Ledger. And there's always been some contention about they need to be in the county, they need to print in the county, they need to publish in the county, they need to do all these things in the county. My sense is that if the sheriff's office was able to go out to a competitive bid, and we certainly all know our interest and desire among the governing body to put everything out to bid, that we should be aggressively putting out those services. That's a fairly significant expenditure. We
Yeah.
do a tremendous amount of advertising, and if the Star Ledger, in the case of the county, can potentially put together a better proposal, I would request, subject to council's concurrence, that we encourage you to put it out to bid, and the sheriff's office does a tremendous amount of advertising. Their budget must be, I couldn't imagine, but it's got to be much greater than this. So could we go and solicit? My sense is the Ledger is probably the only other paper that has the circulation levels that would qualify.
I think you're correct in that regard, yes. Yeah, certainly we can do that.
Would we, only because, would this have to change the newspaper of record? That
It may, but we
It
named
may.
Ledger as
The Ledger is named
Okay.
as one of the papers, I
yeah,
think.
the press is the other, and I believe the Tri-Town too.
So we can do that?
Yes,
Great.
I just made a note of it, so we'll take care of that. See what we come back with.
And what is the printing and the binding codification? Is this the ongoing updates to our code, our ordinance books?
Yes.
Is there a way, and at least in my case,
It
can we get them burned to a CD? I don't need the book.
Well, you can access it through the book, but it's the code book supplements. It's New Jersey NJSA supplements, the statute books.
Okay.
ABC licenses, ballot printing, and voting strips for 30 districts inclusive of the school board election. Now did you have any other questions on that, Mayor?
Anyone else?
Just on the postage.
Yeah, that was where I was headed next.
Yeah.
As I'm looking at this, and Jeffrey, in my worksheets, I had $3,500 requested. Did you fold all the postage into this?
No. That, the $56,830 increase is 23,000 houses at $2.50 certified mail
Oh.
in the event of the recall.
We need to take a recess. I'll call the meeting back in session. Thank you. Okay. Where else are we at, Mr. Davis?
We have, where were we?
you were at the printing, postage.
Yeah.
You were at postage.
Well, I think we're beyond that now. The rest of it is fairly straightforward. There's no increases in the request. There is, I do have a couple capital items, believe it or not.
File cabinets?
Before we go off there, any other comments on J2?
No.
What's the pleasure of the council with this 56,000 or this additional monies?
Mayor, I think that I don't think there's anything we can do about it at this point.
Okay. Capital, what page?
G5.
Appreciate all your comments of support, by the way. Thank you.
Can we
Nice.
get it out of there? I'm serious. Can we get it out of there?
I don't know.
Sure you can.
I'm talking about,
I think we
What do
were
we do
told
about it?
that, Mayor,
But-
when you were out, we had a side conversation
Yeah.
off the record, And my understanding is that we have an obligation to put it in there just in case. Not necessarily that's going to be spent, and I'm confident that it's not going to be spent. But I believe, and Mr. Filiatro, correct me if I'm wrong, that we have to have it in there in case there's a need to utilize those funds.
There is a statutory responsibility to provide for all obligations of the township that are known at the time of the budget. We would be hard pressed, knowing that the situation is a possibility at this point in time, to justify a quote emergency at the time the election is held, because it is a known possibility at this point in time when we're working on the budget.
So there's no way we could pull it from somewhere down the road if we had to?
Not 57,000.
No, this is greatly. We only put $25,000 in contingency for the entire year, for the entire town, for all the unexpected expenditures. So this greatly exceeds the money we put aside for unknowns.
The only comment I'm going to make is that this is an absolute, utter disgrace that the taxpayers of this municipality have to potentially be burdened because 3 disingenuous, politically motivated individuals with the tax crisis that exists in the state of New Jersey could do this to the people of this municipality, and they should be ashamed of themselves that they continue this political fraud, now to the tune of $56,000, which is probably somebody's full-time job in this municipality. God forbid, and we're in the event of a real budget crisis. They should be ashamed. Let's move to capital. What page?
G5.
G5, sir. This is a piece of office furniture that actually the mayor's aware of.
Mm-hmm.
There's a dire need for a workstation for this individual. It's a fairly extensive area because of the various printers that are involved, the computer itself, and the scanner.
Which one is this, Mr. Davis?
Desk for computer operator.
Desk for
That's-
computer operator.
I don't want to mention any names, but
Well, no, I don't think there's any problem. We have someone in the clerk's office whose desk is a folding table, and they don't have a keyboard tray, and it is.
well, they do, but it's kind of down.
It's impossible to use. So it's.
So anyway, that's what that request is.
We
The,
can't have people working on a folding table.
We may do as best we could at the time. The laptops for council. That brings me to a question.
We don't need them.
Well, I have a request from Mr. Tabasco, who wants the disc and he wants to continue to use his laptop. From what I understand, the rest of the council wants to use the books. I strenuously object to both. It has to be one or the other. And the reason is, it takes 8 hours to do the books. It takes 2 hours to do the, the CD.
Right.
So if I'm going to do both, now it's 10 hours.
What's most cost-effective?
CDs.
Well, that's it then.
It's the laptops.
We did, I don't know if you have gotten a report yet, I did get a report from MAS department that by using PDF, Mr. Mayor, I think you'd mentioned over making notes, by using a PDF file, that would be possible. Using a PDF file and saving the disk onto the actual laptop, you could make your own personal notes.
Tape right in it.
Yes. Not with the stylus or anything, just little pop-up notes that you can insert if we buy the
Software.
the PDF version that allows you to write to a document.
I think we have, it would be prudent for us to go the most cost-effective way. That was the intention when we went this route, to change it.
I have no problem with that, and I agree we should have to go with the most cost-effective way. My only question is, we're projecting around $3,000 for laptops, $15,000 for 5, or is this includes all, like all the professionals
I don't
and so
have one.
forth. It doesn't,
Well, not for me. I don't have one.
but is this for 5, Mr. Filiatro, or the 15,000, or just for the council members, or is it for all the professionals such as, I believe Mr. Gannon has one, and
I think they're,
Did we buy 10 last time?
no,
I think we bought 8.
8, I think was the number.
And then there have been some replacements, and I think there's been an addition since then. I'm not too sure where this number came from. Roughly, I think we can get them for around $2,000, $2,100. Don't get anything sophisticated. That's 7 computers.
The one that the mayor was using a couple of weeks ago, Mayor, remember that
Prototype.
one? That had a stylus in it, by the way.
It did, but you can't use it for...
Not on the microfiche. Yeah.
You can't
Right,
use it
yeah,
on the disc that we have.
Right, but that I think was a $2,100 item.
May I ask this question? In terms of the book, are there materials that, without doing the whole book, that you find that you need to have hard copies of? For example, do we need all the resolutions, or maybe just hard copies of the ordinances as maybe like a compromise? Because I find that's what I need. I need hard copies of the ordinances.
My own perspective is the laptop doesn't work when it comes to ordinances, because as people are making comments from the public, and I want to make a note next to the provision that they're talking about, or if I'm going through it and making notes, and we're constantly answering people's questions about it, it's not the technology we have for these discs is not scroll down technology, so it's kind of awkward, and I find in making policy and being comfortable with these things on the ordinances, I struggle without a hard copy. I mean, I don't need the other materials, quite frankly, but when something is significant,
Then perhaps the disc for the computer, so you can have backup material if you need it, and then perhaps just hard copy of the actual documents that you're going to be working on, the ordinances or the resolution.
Still duplicating.
It's still duplicating, but a lot of that duplication is all that backup material.
I mean, I have no problem going along with the laptops. If that's the direction, that's great. It's very, very, very difficult to get comfortable with the ordinances when you're home, struggling with the laptop, trying to get yourself ready and prepared, and then to come here and grapple with them when you're trying to answer a customer's question. It's great from a cost perspective, and that's our motivation, but we need to acknowledge that as policymakers, I think it creates limitations in our ability to fluently use the material.
I think with the prototype I saw, though, you cannot write with a stylus. The prototype I saw with the PDF file, which is an Adobe Acrobat, you can make notations, a notation block, and actually type in a notation right on the thing. It does mean copying the document off the CD onto the computer, but I think that might serve the purposes that you're looking for, especially if you're pre-reviewing and making yourself notes prior to the meeting and everything, where you're not under a lot of time constraint. It might be a little cumbersome at a meeting to write notes on the fly.
Jeffrey, if that's a software issue, then are new laptops required?
Not necessarily. These laptops have pretty much served their life. I mean, it was lease purchased for 3 years. I think they're about 5 years old now.
Yeah, they are.
And they've about served their useful life. We're having some issues with a few of the computers laptops that the council has. Cindy, I know you are not a big fan of that laptop.
It never worked from day
because
one.
it doesn't work. That's the problem.
The drive.
Half the
The
time
drive
don't
never
work.
worked.
There is an inherent problem of using the microfiche in that there is a program on that disk. And if that disk is left in the machine, when it goes to reboot the next time, it boots the microfiche program and won't boot Windows. And it'll crash every time. And that is an inherent problem that we have with them, which is why you all accuse me of black magic when I take the disk out and it boots right up.
But the PDF is a more standard software package. So that
PDF
might
is a
work.
Microsoft product. It's much more stable product.
So, why don't we try, if I may, recommend. Try that, and then, Bruce, what is your opinion of just providing a packet of ordinances?
Well, we'd have to provide all the backup that goes with an ordinance for the council. I mean, we
But
provide...
that would be on the computer stuff.
Well, I don't know.
The backup would be on the
You do
disc.
the ordinance, you do the ordinance
have
on
the
the paper
ordinance.
for the
Well, as a
public.
practical matter, we're running copies of ordinances anyway for the public. So
So they're
to
available
set up
now.
a couple of
So
folders
to
for the
make-
council is not a big deal.
So is that the compromise?
Yeah, as long as these laptops do the work and I mean, my laptop, basically, I used it to open up the discs, and 70% of the times it didn't work. It wouldn't open the discs. So, like the mayor said, if you're going to use a laptop that's you're going to allow you to make some notes and so forth as you go along, then I'm in favor of that because it's a dual purpose. But if it's just a laptop to open a disk and read, and you're still going to have to make your notes someplace else, it's
I'll have MIS
We should do a test run.
maybe
on
do
that.
a test run or do a demonstration for you
Right.
before we invest any kind of money in this.
That's
Okay.
what I said. Why don't we do it, try it on our existing laptops and on a PDF file and see how it works?
Well, they're kind of,
Well, I'll talk to MIS, see what we can
see
do.
what they say, but I think they're kind of worn out, those.
Okay,
All right,
what's
Mayor,
next?
That's what I have under the clerk's budget. I also have, traditionally, the clerk also handles the council's budget.
Where is that?
Council's budget's on J1.
I have a budget.
Yeah, you have a budget. Not a big one, but you have a budget.
He's got a big one. J1, okay, where is this at?
Bottom of J1.
Oh, okay. Well, you know what you do with my salary, correct?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
that is.
Has that been reflected here already?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I think
My
it's three of
salary
us.
also?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
The three of ours.
There, in years past, we put that in a line item in another department. And since there's more than one salary involved in everything, what I have done is I actually have put a line item right in your budget in OE for awards, meals, and public relations.
And what's
You mean
this?
the donations in direct aid?
I'm sorry, yes, donations and direct, yes. The next line down.
What's the public relations piece of the awards and meals?
Plaques and such?
Yeah, it is for,
Plaques,
Well, it's probably under the awards piece would be the plaques.
yes,
I'm just wondering what PR is.
public relations.
Gee, thanks. Glad you cleared that up.
Good. So you want to move on then?
No.
Perhaps I can help the mayor's, your volunteer luncheon or dinner.
Oh, what we the volunteer.
The
Okay.
volunteer recognition.
The volunteer
that comes out
recognition
of that
dinner for
line
the.
item.
Yep. Okay.
The cost of the proclamations, the supplies and
Right.
materials.
That I figured.
Yeah, that's the normal,
That's the awards.
but the increase is the
what's
luncheon.
Okay. That's right.
So the increase is related to the annual volunteer lunch,
Yes.
Right.
and the donations and the direct aid is up, but it's not really up because it's just merely the redirection.
It's a
of-
reallocation of the salary.
It's a reallocation of salary.
You see, it is exactly the same amount as minus up there in the salary wage account.
The conferences and meetings, the $250 is for council members for any seminars or conferences that you may wish to attend.
I've never attended any.
I know, but it's a minimal amount, but
I haven't either.
In case there's a new law or workshop.
yeah, I mean, you could probably get, two of you could go on $250 because they're almost at least $100 a piece now, pretty much, so. You know, occasionally a council member will take advantage of it. It's there if you want it. It's a minimal amount, so. Membership dues is New Jersey Mayor's Association.
Right. Which we all get. It's called the Mayor's Association, but it's the legislative bulletins that we all get.
The training and education is, these are for actual courses like we take for CEUs or things like that. That's $500 in there for that. It's been years since any council member has gone to anything like that. I don't know if you have a need, but I've always left it in. It's always there. And that's up to you. And pretty much that is your budget.
Does this include, I'm not able to go, and I would pay for it myself, but the Atlantic City Convention every year, where does that get covered for those that may go to that?
Comes out of-
The registration comes out of the manager's line.
Out of the
item.
manager's budget.
Right.
And that's the only thing we do pay for is the registration.
Well,
Any questions on Mr. Davis's budget or the township council's budget?
Why do we have office equipment in there?
It's zero, I don't know.
What's that? I'm sorry.
Office equipment,
It's a zero.
$500?
It's 500.
That's training and education.
That's the training and
Office
education
equipment,
line.
there's nothing.
Oh,
There's no
okay.
number.
It's my vision, I'm sorry, I apologize.
So nothing else for Mr. Davis?
Good.
I have public services,
What page is that?
which is animal control, park and ride, health.
What page is that, Mr. Davis?
Just a minute. J16.
Pardon me.
Thank you.
Okay. J16.
Public service.
Wake up, Larry. Don't fall asleep yet.
Public service. Okay, so give us a description of the public service department,
Public
please.
service is the window, right, it's in the clerk's office, but the other side, it's animal control, dog licenses, park and ride, and health services, well permits, septic permits, that kind of thing. The increase in the requested overtime is for rabies clinics, primarily.
And why do we need to do that on an overtime basis?
Because they're generally held on a Saturday.
Same
They're held
time every year?
in the Public Works garage on a Saturday morning.
Pardon me?
They're held in the Public Works garage on a Saturday morning.
Are they held the same time every year?
What do you mean?
4 times a year?
Jeffrey, is that expense
I know
offset by
advance,
fees?
in advance, so he could adjust.
Yes, we take in revenue on the licenses,
We do
but it's not
generate
enough to
revenue.
cover the operation of the department, but the department really serves multiple purposes, not just dog licensing, or the division, I should say, not the
But the
department.
dog licenses do generate some fees.
Yes. Yes, they do.
How many
Well-
full-time employees?
2,
2 full-time employees?
yes.
I have to ask this question. And anybody can jump in and correct me if I'm not. But for some reason, I thought last year we took out all the overtime, except for the Public Works Department and the Police Department.
I'll refresh your recollection. What we did was we eliminated overtime in every department, and we allocated $150,000 to Mr. Davis in his then capacity as manager to use at his discretion in any department that needed overtime. But it was eliminated per se because it had been 3 times the 150,000. I mean, the number was much greater than 150.
It was greater than that, yes.
And we reduced overtime in the police department by 30% over what it had been in calendar year
That's correct.
2004. So all these little items that are appearing from overtime actually are a division of or a subset of that total $150,000 that Mr. Davis allocated at the time
Right.
back to all of these departments based on what they needed. Now, we need to obviously revisit the application of that 150,000. Are we going to duplicate that? Are we going to decrease it? Are we going to increase it? Are we going to eliminate it? That's a policy decision we have to make. But is that an accurate representation?
Yes. Yes, it is. I mean, and this will be up to Jeffrey and Tom as far as, maybe we don't have to show, I don't know if we have to show or not show individually the overtime and just have Like you do for legal services, you have a line item, maybe just one general overtime, and then the manager charges it out as necessary.
No, it's,
He doesn't like that.
I see them both shaking their
well,
head no.
well, no, I don't think it meets budgetary requirements.
That's why I
as far
said I
as the
wasn't
state.
sure if that could be done.
I can foresee some payroll problems since, the employees that are working are assigned to departments, and I could see mistakes being made all over the place. So we have to start assigning overtime to different departments than what the employer is assigned to. I think it's really just a matter of controlling. You make a policy decision about overtime, and then we go line by line by line, and then see that that policy is adhered to.
I think we did pretty good under that program.
You did.
There is one item, or one thing that, in reviewing this and looking at the sheets, that I want to make comment on. That normally, under the specialized expenses, which is the lion's share of that is the animal control services. We normally do take the dog fees out of that, and that was not done this year. So I'm saying to you that I want the opportunity to go up and look at what kind of fees we collected last year and reduce that line item accordingly.
The 11.2% increase? The specialized expenses?
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
Why are books and publication, I mean, it's a fairly insignificant amount, but it's like a 30% increase. Do we, some new update on rabies treatment?
Cross-street directory for the dog license program is $262. NJSA Title IV supplements are $100, and professional publications are down to $100.
I thought the title supplements were covered under the clerk's.
I have the general library. They just have Title IV, which is animal control.
Gotcha. Any other questions on this? This is the top of J17.
I don't think they don't have any.
Just in terms of controlling overtime, I just want to say that it's easier in the long run to, keep track of it department by department than in one general account. So you can analyze why trends are happening in certain areas.
I fully agree.
Okay. Anything else then for the clerk?
I get it. You guys don't
I
like
do
the
want to
other-
make mention, they do have an office furniture and fixture line of $500 here. And I left that there rather than move it down to capital because I'm not too sure all the items here are meet the criteria of being capital. They requested, and you don't have the worksheet, so I thought I'd make mention. They requested for clinic tables to use for the dogs, the folding tables. They feel that the current ones are unsafe. File cabinet and a standard desk, used furniture, $200 for desk, $100 for a used file cabinet is what the request is. Because they're used, I left these items in as an operating expense and not as a capital expense. They would not meet the criteria of capital.
That's true. The clinic tables are they said are unsafe, and they're peeling tabletops. For the rabies clinics.
Okay. We'll take it under advisement. Do you want to, is it easier to just go through the CFO and manager, or should we go right to the buildings and grounds capital?
Well, if we go to building and grounds, they can,
Okay, great.
continue with their evening.
I'm stuck here, and they can then get done and leave.
Okay. You're up, George.
Page G4.
Makes more sense.
Yeah, get them in, get them out.
G4, welcome, folks.
Fine.
For the benefit of the public, if you would just introduce yourselves, please.
George Gouret, Mechanical Plant Supervisor.
Excuse me, Mildred Barnier, Public Works Director, Buildings and Grounds Director.
Good evening, folks. Thanks for coming out.
Thank you.
right, so we're on G4. This is capital improvements to buildings. So I've called the council's attention to that, and
Just to forewarn Billy and George, they are not necessarily, I do try to keep them in order, but I do put them in building order, so they don't necessarily go in the same order as your budget request.
so if we start at the top, there's replacing flagpoles. Maybe just walk us through each of these.
Okay, the flagpoles requested are for the library, the police department, youth and family services, and DPW. PD's and the library's flagpoles are currently leaning, providing an insurance hassle claim. Public Works has been broken. It's got a temporary pole in place as well as a youth and family services pole. They're short temporary poles they've broken over the years and need to be replaced with a true flagpole, not a pipe.
So we're buying, how many poles are,
A
4?
total of 4.
Okay. Those are expensive poles, huh? Jesus.
Oh, 5.
$5,600 a pole.
How much?
What did I say?
36.
36, I'm sorry, 3,600 a pole.
36. Probably about right.
It's still, it's G4, boy.
I paid close to 2,000 for something that was for just a simple residence.
Okay, do you want to keep going? Go
Yep,
right ahead.
you want to keep, okay. The mower trailer for buildings and grounds, 80,000. We currently actually have no trailer. We've been just brought back. We were underneath recreation in the past. The mowers actually belong to them. We shared around. They're getting more space. There's a crunch for mowers. We currently, when they loan us one, we get a 6-foot deck, which, and then we're proposed here is a 12-foot, which mows the fields in 1/3 the time. Uses one guy instead of 2 to 3 guys. So it's man-saving. It's a bigger machine. It's a little more expensive in the front, but over the time, it pays for itself well in advance. Cuts down man hours that we got guys sitting on the mowers.
So that's 80,000 for one
It's a
12-foot
12-foot mower deck and a trailer.
with the trailer to pulls it?
Yeah.
What will that do in terms of helping us cut more grass, serve more customers? I mean, what's the anticipated ROI?
Well, this is basically for all of our grounds around our buildings, with a 6-foot deck.
Yeah, we're down to 5 maintenance guys. So if we tie one guy up all day mowing grass for the entire summer, we're down to 4. We tie one guy up for every day running mail, we're down to 3. If we can get the 12-foot deck, we can usually get done 2 to 3 days. The larger machine would then go to parks, and they'd use that instead of. We've got several of the still small 6-foot decks running in the town, and like I said, it takes 3 times as much time to cut with a 6-foot deck as the 12-foot. They're wider, yet they're faster, and got more horsepower to get through the time. So you're saving in man hours and time.
George, did you say that you do currently share mowers with?
Parks and Rec.
Parks and Rec.
When we could get them.
Okay, and the anticipation is with the additional basins and with the additional parks, Bonham in particular, while that comes online, that there'll be fewer and far between to borrow from Rec. And also, what you're suggesting here is that with a much wider, you can cut a much wider swath with what you're requesting here. You're just requesting one vehicle, one mower,
One mower.
and it's 12 foot.
It's 11.8, 11.9, depending on the manufacturer. We can classify them in the 12-foot.
Speed-wise, how fast is it compared to a standard, like a Z mower? Does it go at the same rate?
Like a residential, if you got like a 6-foot deck, they'd probably tell you they mow somewhere 5 to 6 acres an hour.
Okay.
These were probably getting up to 10 acres an hour. And with them, you can't mow at the speed they say. That the speed they're saying that you're getting that acreage is golf green, perfectly flat. To be able to, these machines are longer. They tend to be able to keep the speed up and
Right.
mowing.
So it would still sort of require the smaller one to do the dressing around the edges and around the trees.
The wings actually
So-
fold up. They take care of pretty much, that mower would pretty much mow everything we've got in this complex besides what we do with a push mower and a small residential 21-inch style.
Okay.
which we already have. We have the small, the weed whackers and all that. We don't need that, but we just need the larger machine to mow with.
Is this pulled by a tractor, or is it a self-contained?
Self-contained mower.
Okay. And it's a package at 80,000, the trailer and mower, or
It'd be two separate sources that we'd go out to for.
okay.
All right, trailer storage and the water tower inside paint.
Trailer storage is that's actually setting fees for us, possibly setting a Board of Ed trailer out here on the parking lot somewhere for file storage, where you should be taking an old Board of Ed trailer, putting it up on some footings. The biggest cost there is actually getting us Jersey Central power. Our electrical services to the campus up here is maxed out. We'd have to pay Jersey Central to set us some new transformers and run the service to the trailer.
I think we could do without this one with the investment we're making in the digitizing of all of the materials in the engineering building. We shouldn't need this. And
Well, there are trailers down at the engineering building already.
Right,
This
but-
one is pretty much for records here. We have a mess in the basement because the records have been moved around and they're mold infested and everything.
But once we optically scan all the stuff that's in the cabinets in the building down the road, we're not going to need those filing cabinets anymore. So we'll have, the cabinets can go, and we'll have all those trailers that should be empty
At the wrong building.
at the one building. Right. So what's wrong with that?
But then, even if it's that trailer, what he's saying is that trailer will have to be moved up to this
Well,
area.
Why would it have to be moved? I mean, those are storage things. We access them every day. Big
I don't
companies
access
send
my
their
stuff, but
big companies
I
send their
can't
stuff
talk to
to
the other
Stone
guys.
Mountain in Atlanta, Georgia, and they don't. And if these are truly archived materials, if they're a little bit of a distance, then we should be able to use the existing trailers we have that are going to be empty soon. We've
Do you
invested.
have anticipation of those two trailers down at the EPC building being emptied this year?
Well, certainly, that's the plan. We spent about $500,000 in capital last year on new technology to optically scan all the files with the engineering department. And the return on the investment was, you're not going to need trailers and you're not going to need filing cabinets. So if that's changed, I want my $500,000 back.
No, the only reason why I ask, Mayor, because, if this is the projected plan, all well and good, but we're also talking about the files that are in this building downstairs that need to be taken out.
Yeah, I mean,
So in the meantime, no one goes downstairs because everything was moved and walls were taken down and, the other.
Yeah, I just think that before we invest $15,000, we should get a handle on how much of the trailers down there are slated to be vacated. I remember the night we were here and we got it made perfect sense. You have rooms full of filing cabinets
Right.
that will be condensed into boxes of DVDs, and it's terrific, and it is. So before we should be allocating any more money of this size, we should make certain that what's going to be freed up can be used to supplement what we might need in the future.
Well, this trailer was for here, not
Understood.
down there.
Right, but when you stepped out, what we talked about was if this is material to be archived, whether it's physically this close or it's a drive down the road, why does that matter? And
Well,
mindful,
the clerk's files were going to go in this trailer.
well, the clerk's files may be going in the trailer down at $15,000. That's a lot of money, Bruce.
Well, it's also terribly inefficient if we have to go, access files, get in the car, drive down to the other building.
But do you really, in the private industry, my files, when I send them to be archived, they go to Stone Mountain, Georgia.
Yeah, but you have
I send in a slip, and it takes a couple of days, and they send it back. If I
we
need it
don't have
urgent.
that luxury. I don't have a staff in Georgia who's going to get my file.
Right.
We have to get it.
Right, so somebody would get in their car, they'd go down there. I just think it's a luxury that in today's day and age, we can't afford. I mean, look, I'll defer to the council, but I just don't think we can afford, and I don't mean this to be disrespectful, so please don't take it that way, But I don't think we should spend $15,000 so that someone doesn't have to get in their car and drive 700 feet down a road.
I felt pretty good that it was only 15
I was just
grand
gonna say.
because the trailer was free. And the trailer would have cost 80 if we had to buy it.
But we're going to have all these empty trailers as a function of this new optical scanning technology that we sunk $500,000 into. So, look, I'll be quiet on this. I'll defer to the rest of the council for any comments.
Whatever council decides.
What do you guys, lady, think?
I'll speak as if I was an employee here. If you told me I had to go down over the hill to get a file or put it down over there, I wouldn't do it. I think it's absurd to ask somebody right here, because they work on time constraints, and I'm being the devil's. They work on time constraints. There are things, you and I get emails every blessed day from somebody complaining because something hasn't been done in a timely manner, and yet you want them to go down over the hill
But
to
I
pick
think
up
we're
file.
misunderstanding what these are. These are not everyday files. Hold on, let me get the file. These are archived materials that we don't use on a regular basis, so they get shipped to be archived. These are not, I need to pull out your permit that you just filed yesterday to see if it's done. We're not setting up that kind of an operation. This is material that is currently in the basement because it's archived.
Is that what it
Right?
is,
Let me
Clarify
it's-
this.
Yeah, there are files that I have in the basement that we access, maybe not every day, but we have a reason to go down there. And the file cabinets up here, I have no room for anything anymore. Let me say this. There's been a new development since this went in the capital budget, and that is we are the recipients of a Paris grant. And there is somebody that we've already awarded the contract that's going to come in and review our files and give us a plan on how we can better archive our files. And perhaps what we should do, the prudent thing to do would be to wait to see what is recommended from that. And because it's not just the clerk's office, it's everywhere.
building.
Yeah.
I thought that that was what the company that we invested in
It
was
was only for
going.
the engineering department.
But
No,
was gonna-
that's different. That's
just
for
the-
scanning.
Okay,
This is a grant that we received from the state.
just recently.
Yeah, very
I-
recently,
I
a
saw
couple of
that.
months ago, about
Mhm.
$40,000. We went to Trenton during the ceremony, and they awarded it and all that stuff. And so that individual is going to start probably within the next month or two. And we can wait and see. If nothing develops, I would say to you that if there is no, you didn't get to it yet, new building, if there is the recommendation from the Paris grant individual that comes in says that you definitely need additional storage space, and this is how it should be structured, we'll address that at that time. Perhaps next budget cycle, that trailer may look like a bargain after all said and done.
This is basically, this 15,000 is for electrical lines. This is.
That's right.
It's
Right,
nothing
they have
but for
to run a
power.
line.
This
That's
is a
what it is.
power.
Because it has to be climate
Right.
controlled, the
Right.
file.
Right.
It just, I do think we need to better determine what materials we need ready access to versus materials that, by definition, routinely in business go to long-term storage because they only have to be accessed for a certain period of time. And I just can't see spending $15,000 in electrical work if the landscape of this process is going to change. So,
All right, I'm taking,
I mean, I wouldn't do anything yet because I'm just one person. Clearly,
well, I think I just did it, based on what I just reported
Right,
on
you
the
did.
Paris grant.
okay.
Thank you.
So what's the water tower inside paint?
Okay, it's actually not a painting of the project, it's a engineering fee and studies. We're currently receiving chips from the inside of the water tower. The tower was put up in the early 80s and needs maintenance. It needs to be painted, needs to be taken care of inside.
What tower is this?
Water tower right over here feeds this municipal complex. It's not as simple as, okay, we shut it down, we go in and paint it for 3 months, because then we have no way of feeding water to our current facilities. There's got to be a design phase of either some kind of driven, computer-driven pump to keep us pressure in the system so we don't have to have a storage tank. Right now, we pump it to the tower for storage, and it back feeds the system. We have to come up with a, so this is
because of
engineering,
concerns for drinking quality?
structural.
Is that the, structural
Structural.
integrity?
If you don't maintain the tower, it's going
Right.
to rust out.
I may point out that we do have 3 cellular companies on the top of the tower. It's about time that part of their lease agreement, every 7 years, they paint the outside of the tank for us, and that's probably about time for them to do that, and that would be a good time to do the inside too.
So you're thinking is we can get them to pay this $20,000?
No.
Oh.
But, if we have flaking on the inside and they're going to be sandblasting or doing whatever they have to do on the outside, it's certainly
Might be more
going to aggravate the
cost-effective.
problems we have on the inside.
Okay. Security upgrade.
Security upgrade. These are some recommendations we've had from the chief of police. Increasing some of our buildings. This building, we've got the electronic door locks. Some of the other buildings don't have that. He suggests some parking lot cameras so we can monitor the outsides of the buildings. Some of our cashier windows should have security windows so that people can't come through the windows at the employees or the money cash counters. Some additional burglar alarms onto the buildings. We've actually only got 3 buildings that are burglar alarmed within the township right now.
Don't say which ones.
No. Let people guess. So we feel that they were some of the things we needed to do.
Have we had a problem
All
with
right.
security on our municipal property?
We've had several break-ins, minor.
So is
Fortunate.
this 130 some sort of an estimate from an outside entity that
Yeah,
has
we had
evaluated all of
several
the?
different, yeah, we had several, we had some come on and give us prices on some cameras. We had a couple that we know what pricing we're doing for door locks, so we added them, price for additional doors. And the windows, we just went out and got some security window prices.
These are items that the chief of police has recommended.
Yeah. And actually, the parking lot cameras have also came back up through the insurance. They recommend, especially nighttime meetings and stuff, that particular lots be monitored just for what happens.
I'm going to go back to my comment as always when it comes to upgrading, spending this kind of money, which now $15,000 for an electric line compared to $130 for security. We need to address the building as a whole and where we're going.
Next line.
I think,
Next line.
yeah,
Next
but I mean, but those, I mean, we keep year after year. Well, I've been here 5 years. We've been putting a bandage here, bandage there, here, there. Before you know it, we need a bulldozer.
We need one of those too.
I don't see that on.
It's on page G1.
But I think that we have to be realistic on, what we do. We have to make a strong decision on where we're going. I mean, we're either going to do one or the other.
I think we're going to their point, that's the next item.
So I think that until we address the big fish.
Excuse me, so I don't forget. George, would you give me a list of what those proposed upgrades are? I don't think I saw that.
Okay.
The thing is, Mr. Showmaker, the police building is, I mean, relatively speaking, is new compared
Right.
to the rest of these buildings. And
Library.
that upgrade is, the security upgrades the chief is recommending would still be separate and apart, I think, from any new structure that we may put up.
And also, the chief has, I've had several conversations with Chief Carter on security of our building. We've had some incidents down there within the last several months where people will ride through the back of the parking lot and, dump garbage off or try and do things to our equipment. And matter of fact, it was only a couple of months ago, they do have a camera on the side of their building where their bay is on the police department that goes to our parking area, but not far enough, because we had an incident down there a couple of months ago and we couldn't see who the person was or even a car or plate number. So these things, I mean, Cynthia, you speak of the big picture. It's true, because if you're going to have that big picture, then you're going to incorporate
All those
everything that
things.
we're talking about right now. And
Right.
so it's true.
All right, so on the construct town hall, and there's also this improvement to the senior building for another $1 million. I mean, it wouldn't make sense to sort of treat them as
Yeah, I think
as separate.
We had talked about that, and the economies of scale, if we were going to do the actual construction of a new building, I think Mr. Tabasco brought it up at the time, it would make sense if the council is agreeable, that would be the time to do the addition to the senior building, because you have everything mobilized at that point. It would be cheaper than bidding it separately and getting everybody mobilized for that.
Or wouldn't it just make more sense to build a municipal building that was big enough to have the seniors accommodated right in it in a newer facility? I don't know the answer to these questions. These are rhetorical questions. I'm not posing them to you as a question, but
I don't know if
Certainly that square footage wasn't projected as far as town hall, so you would have an increase in cost in the town hall.
Yeah, but is it gonna
Probably,
be-
I don't think it'd be much difference in
it's
cost.
probably not going to be an extra $1 million, because it's going to be $1 million to improve that building. Maybe in the economies of square footage and raw materials acquired at a higher number,
Oh,
it could be done for less.
One of
I
the-
don't know.
One of the complications is what we're restricted in terms of using that building for, because it was funded with community development block grant funds, or major improvements to it were, and to use it for something other than what those grants were approved for might create a complication as well. So if we were to move that operation over to a new building,
You couldn't use that old building for anything else.
it'd be restricted. Yeah.
That's what happens when you take these monies.
Certainly, but your idea I saw one proposal for a new town hall that brought the building very close to the senior center. Certainly, one contractor, perhaps even something that connected the two buildings, might be a cost-effective avenue to go at. I'm not, I'd like your idea.
I think when we get past the budget, what I'd like to do is schedule a workshop where we can really focus on some options. But clearly, I think everyone, from what I've heard from the council, that conditions can't stay the way they are. The efficiency report that we received talked about the need to do this. I think we have to weigh it in terms of the township's overall debt capacity and what the residents can afford.
correct.
At the same time, we have to recognize we have an investment in human resources, and we need to provide an efficient work environment for them. So I think when we get past some of the issues we're dealing with now, and the budget being one of them, we need to just devote, I think, maybe a Saturday morning or one of these Tuesday evenings to laying out all the options in terms of and prioritizing our big capital investments. What do we really need? What can we really afford? And then what are our options? And I really, in all due respect, think that's a conversation way beyond this evening's
There's no question.
permitted
Tonight's
time.
not the time to talk about it.
Absolutely.
All right, so are we agreeable that we need to set up a separate meeting to talk about this? We're not aware of the different creative proposals that have been received. There are some. You've narrowed down at least a couple of different firms, I think.
4.
You had 4, so
When you're when we have a meeting scheduled for that purpose, it'll be up to Tom, I guess, but that may be the time we at least give you copies of those reports, so you have an opportunity to get a sense of what we're looking at.
And I think also, in terms of budget, what we ought to be looking at is some sort of professional fees to help, to provide us with a professional, once we choose one, to walk us through some preliminary brainstorming.
didn't we put money? We didn't. That was taken out last year?
There was a budget proposal, was included in a capital budget 2 years ago, but it was never provided for by ordinance. It was never actually funded.
Okay. What's the pleasure of the council on this building? We want to do a meeting? What do you want to do?
I think we have to weigh and measure. One of the things I don't want to do is I never want to set aside the fact that we have to make it affordable for what the residents can tolerate here. I mean, the budget is balanced on their backs. So,
I think there's going to be 2 phases in the design of this. The first phase will be a concept plan, getting to the point of a concept plan that we can agree on in terms of how much space, where it would be generally laid out. And that's that's not doing the detailed architectural work. That's just doing the preliminary planning work. I think we've made some very positive steps in that direction, but now we really need to get to the point of making decisions.
Well,
So we ought to pay for that, and then I think when it comes to doing detailed architecturals, that can be included in the capital bond ordinance. That can pay for the detailed design phase of it.
My only comment at this juncture is that I certainly wouldn't want to continue to invest money such as, and is this 130, I'm going to go back to the $130,000 again for the security upgrade. I think that we have to think long and hard on putting any type of deep investments in this building until we really decide where we're going. Not that we may not do it, but I think we need to come to a decision because we've been bantering this decision around for some time.
Right.
And I don't want us to keep bantering it and not doing things such as this because we have not come to a conclusion. So I think we need to come to some kind of closure on what direction we're going and not keep discussing it. Do you understand my point,
Right.
Tom?
I do. I have a list here of suggested repairs. What I'll do is I'll go through this and prioritize it in terms of any immediate threats.
Right. And believe me when I tell you, my main focus and my main concern is that, once again, this is a budget that's balanced on the backs of every hardworking citizen who struggles to make ends meet now. So.
Well, I think, Cynthia, in all fairness, obviously, we're not going to come to a decision here tonight.
No, absolutely not.
But obviously, we need the involvement of the community for such a large project.
Absolutely.
And they would have something to say about this as to which direction we should go. Bear in mind that we need to do something. Something
Correct.
needs to be done, and needs to be done soon, in my opinion. From the reports I've seen, from the comments of all the professionals, the efficiency report that we just received. So this is not news to the public. They know
Right.
that something needs to be done with these buildings, or we're going to be in deep trouble here. So the more we wait, or the longer we wait, the more expensive it's going to get.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so, like I said, sooner than later, we're going to have to come to a conclusion that we're going to have to bite the bullet and just go for it, because I believe that we had started at 11 million. Now I see it's up to 20 from a couple years ago. And that's because of the square footage keeps, construction materials and everything else.
Well, construction costs has definitely risen
It's
dramatically in the last few years. I seriously have a concern because I hate because you always look at me as your financial guru to say, we now have an emergency, how do we handle this? And that's certainly not the way to handle it. And we've been talking about this 3, 4, 5 years now, and really have been deferring major needed repairs in some of these older buildings, EPC in this building particularly, that are going to come back and bite us, and we really need to be prepared, because if we have to do it on an emergent basis, it's going to cost us much more than if we could take our time and plan it out and pick our architect and do it
Well, I think
right.
we should set up a meeting, if we can, tonight, so that we can dedicate just a special meeting to this issue here, as to how we're going to move forward on, based on the recommendations of the professionals and so forth. But something needs to be done, needs to be done soon. So I'm all for setting up a meeting to discuss this as soon as possible, as soon as, everybody's available. And I do believe you need all 5 members here for this, because it's important that we all hear each other's input.
Any other comments on this?
From talking with a lot of people from different departments and speaking with the managers, something needs to be done, but at what cost? I need to hear definitives, not, well, this may happen, this may not happen. One thing we know that's happening to a lot of the people in Howell Township, the cost of living here is going up for them. And they're very concerned about it. Number one concern I hear out there from citizens is how much taxes are and how much it costs to live. Owning a mortgage company, It's a little bit frightful seeing what's going on out there in the world right now, and how a lot of families are just having a hard time getting by and putting food on the table and clothes on their children's back, putting a roof over their heads. I mean, where all these millions got to come from? It's a major concern, and I have a understanding mortgages. One thing I don't want to mortgage is my children's future. But I do understand that decisions have to be made, and they're not going to be easy ones. So, but I need definitives about what would have to be done to get these buildings up to where they're functional. Well, I haven't seen definitives. I haven't seen numbers in black and white. I
They could
Just
be
heard
updated.
George-
We do have old reports on them that we could update the costs on them.
Well, one of the things we did talk about was that before we could make a determination, we need an inventory of what it would cost to rehabilitate all of the existing buildings so that we can do a cost justification analysis about, there's two options. There's rehab the existing buildings at X expense, or there is construct a new building at Y expense, and we need to build a business case around either a scenario, what are the pros and cons of each. And absent that data, I certainly wouldn't be able to go to the community as the mayor and say, let's just build a new building because these buildings are 100 years old. That may be a good reason, but absent the factual data, we couldn't make a compelling argument to convince anybody. I mean,
I got to agree with Councilwoman Schumacher, though. How can I agree to spend $130,000 to upgrade security when we don't have major issues, and it all may be for naught in 2 to 3 years?
Yeah.
I mean, if you told me what the major issues are that must be addressed now, I can make a better judgment. And I understand they're recommended by the chief, but to throw good money after bad never
So
works in the long run.
Just on that, some of them item, or some of the money was being spent on buildings that would still remain. The library, the public works, they were two of the four that were actually slated for some of the upgrades to the.
Could you please break that down
Yeah,
for me?
not-
I would
not
really
right here.
appreciate
Yes.
that. Okay? Because that would help me inform the decision. If those buildings are going to stay intact and they need to be upgraded, it's different than if they're not going to be.
I
Okay.
think, let me just offer one more thing, and I say this as somewhat of a newcomer, granted, but I would tell the council, in terms of the buildings, not to beat yourselves up, or ourselves up over the fact that we're operating out of these buildings in this space, because I can't help but think about it as a planner. And the fact is that the standard approach, and it differs from the way architects look at these things, is that you build a municipal complex based on the customers you need to serve. You don't do it based on what Department Head X says his or her needs happen to be. There's typically a standard for delivering services for a community of our size, and you start with that. And whether or not you can retrofit the existing buildings may be a moot point if you don't have the room for the projected population, projected build-out population of this town. You are now going through a comprehensive master plan review process. That ought to be able to give someone who does this for a living a basis for estimating a built-out population. That ought to give you a basis for saying what sort of space needs you will have in terms of municipal facilities. That'll then put you in a position to start proposing a phasing process. So it's not about whether you can retrofit one room or another. You have a municipal operation, you need to house it for your population. It can be fairly simple and straightforward in terms of how we look at it. And that's the road I'm going to encourage us to go down.
Great.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so we're going to set up a separate meeting to talk about what to do with respect to the building, and we'll leave it to you gentlemen to put that together as quickly as possible. Maybe tomorrow someone could check the 5 of our calendars. Okay. We have improvements to the annex to the fire prevention. Oh, that looks like it was taken out.
Yeah, there's an old, alongside of it, there's an old water storage tank. It's an old in-ground cistern. It's been out of service since the new tower went into effect. It needs to be removed at some time.
The operative word is sometime.
Right. All right. We have improvements to the tax building, $65,000 for a new roof.
That needs to be done relatively short order. The roof, the shakes are starting to peel back. There's sections that are removing. We're going to have leaks within a couple of years.
Was this requested last year?
Yes.
It wasn't last year's budget?
It was removed from the budget.
Right.
But it was a request that did not survive the budget process last year.
Okay.
It, just as a personal sideline, since that's my department out there, Buildings and Grounds did spend a lot of time and effort reconstructing that building when we swapped with the Board of Ed. And we have, new walls in there, new floors, new carpeting, and the building has basically been rebuilt underneath that roof. I certainly wouldn't want to destroy all that new construction through, major leaks because of the roof wasn't replaced at the time we rebuilt the inside of the building.
And refresh my memory, we got that building prior to my time, but we did a swap with the Board of Ed, right?
That has always been a building since the state police pulled out of that was the old state police
Right.
barracks. We leased it to the Board of Ed for $1. It's 8,000 square feet. The building on Squawking Yellowbrook was 10,000 square feet. The Board of Ed was ready to spend $2 million to build a 10,000 square foot administration building. I had 13 people in that building. I said 13 people can fit in an 8,000 square foot building, so we swapped buildings.
Right.
And, yeah, they're both still our buildings, actually. The Board of Ed sits in Squawking Yellowbrook at $1 a year.
Yeah, the only reason I mention that is I think when we inventory the space that we have, we need to make certain that we are including that space. It's a 10,000 square foot building. It's completely modernized. We may need to evaluate whether or not we have to look at that building. If we're going to do a total due diligence, it's all the taxpayers' money. So.
I would look at the agreement with the Board of Ed. I don't know what term that lease agreement is.
Okay.
Moving on.
Yeah, replace the bricks at the Mackenzie sidewalk?
Kinsey sidewalk, it's an historical site, so we can't just go put pavers down, but the bricks are actually cracking, and there's concerns with the sidewalk of trip hazards. So it'll be replaced and get some decent brick that still meets the muster of historical accuracy and get it replaced.
That's our building, so that's our responsibility, right?
Yes, that one is.
We have the elevator for the senior center at $100,000. Is that in the event that we don't get the block grant?
I believe that's in the event they don't get the addition. They are having trouble with the chairlift right now. People are falling off it. It's in pretty bad
God,
shape.
no one's falling off. Don't get us that nervous. we have a big insurance problem, Mr. Filiatro. We're concerned.
It is a very.
We're concerned that someone could fall off.
No, we've
No.
picked them up from off of it.
Okay. Remember, we're concerned someone could fall off, right?
I do believe this is.
I don't know the pricing.
Well, the community development block grant that we applied for.
Yeah, that was
for the
to put the
addition-
elevator in to replace the
The addition
lift.
includes an elevator. If the addition goes on, this was in the event the addition.
Oh, so we don't
does
need
not
this
go.
right now, because even if there's an addition, if
Well-
we broke ground tomorrow, we wouldn't have a building for a little while, right?
But I do believe that something needs to be addressed as far as that lift.
We've applied for the block grant to replace the lift with an elevator. That was that whole community block grant that we did.
But I don't know if we've been approved.
No, I
I
don't
don't
think
know if
we've.
we have either.
I don't think we've
I don't think we
heard
know
from
yet.
them yet.
But I thought you said this 100,000 was if the building is expanded. Is it that, or is it in the
It's-
event we don't
No,
get
no,
the
it-
grant?
It was an either or. If the addition was approved, of course, the addition included an elevator. If the addition was not approved or was not funded, then they would need an elevator to replace that chairlift.
So if we get the grant is just $100,000 for the elevator, is that correct?
It's
I
roughly-
thought that, help me, Bruce, I think the CDBG grant was for the addition.
The community
I
block
think we
grant
don't
was
know. I think we
specifically
don't
for an
know.
elevator.
I think we'll.
Well, that I
It is
do
for an
know.
elevator?
We held a hearing at the
was
senior
for the
building.
elevator.
It is for the elevator.
It was absolutely for the elevator.
Okay.
We don't know whether or not we're going to get it,
No.
but I just,
think the 100,000's there, so if we don't do the addition, which was including an elevator, the 100,000 was there if we also don't get the grant. Because we still have to do the elevator. We're at that point.
We have to do
Mhm. Yeah, there's no question, we just,
Yeah, I agree that the
So
elevator has to go in.
if we get the grant, then
regardless.
this disappears, we don't have to use it.
do we know when we'll hear back on that grant?
Probably within the next 90 days or less.
We just applied, we just sent in
Yeah.
the paperwork about 2 or 3 weeks ago.
So figure it's 120, I'd say within 90 days, 60 to 90 days for formula.
Okay. Memorial stone and plaques.
They're for the, their trees that they have out there, memorial trees. Currently, they're using aluminum temporary grave markers. They don't stand the test of time well. We want to put something that, people are dedicating a tree, we want something that's going to stand there for a little while. Be probably a poured concrete with the engraved plaques. I believe there's 20-some trees down there right now.
We
Right.
talked about that last year, too.
The air conditioning units, 17,000 for the
That's
library.
Yeah, there's 3, I can flip, which numbers they are. The library went in 86, and then
Bless
they're-
you.
They're meeting their time, they're dropping, they're dying, and we've been putting parts in them to keep them up, but they need to be replaced, so they'd be realistic.
Certainly, the newer ones would be more efficient than the ones that are up
Yeah.
there anyway.
1, 3, 5,
Energy
6.
efficient.
Yeah, they've been in there since '86.
So they're, two
As-
of them are 7 tons, and the other one's a 15-ton unit.
Just as a side note, that building has, in 2005, we made our last mortgage payment. That and the police station.
So we own them, Scott.
Cool.
It's nice.
We're a part of the county library system. Is there a way we could, now obviously we own the building and we have to provide for maintenance of the building, but is there a way that we could approach the county and say that all we get out of this deal are the books? We are the largest municipality geographically in the county with one of the smallest libraries, and quite frankly, well, if you remember, I wrote a letter to Thrill and Arizanek, and you guys all got copies, complaining about all kinds of things, and all of a sudden, we got new books coming in, we got
books, yeah.
library hours were expanded, we got we got all kinds of things.
I think, I got a great idea. I think we should set a meeting for you with the new freeholder director.
I think that a better approach would be for the management team to do that and to keep the political people out of it. But quite frankly,
Well, don't forget-
we
That's what gets
we
done.
are the largest municipality land-wise in the county, and we have one of the smallest libraries. There are communities in this county out of the 53 or 52 in a village that have much better equipment, that have much better libraries than we do, and I think we get the real short end of the stick. So I don't have a problem telling the county, we think that they should, as a function of our being in the system, that they should pay for this $17,000 for the air conditioning
I agree.
as a start. I know Mr. Filiatro has that interesting look on his
I guess
face.
because-
Been there, done that.
We've been there.
Yeah,
Well,
we-
let's do it again.
We've gone that route. The county's position is, it will be, when you get involved in the library, that it's our building, you want expanded services, expand the building.
Their attitude
They've
was,
said that to us before,
Right.
when
"Expand the
it
building,
came to,
We'll send books, but that's all we'll do.
Fortunately, we have this new group, Friends of the Library,
That's a good thing.
that really do want to get involved and try to make the library better in many, many ways. I think
But I do have a
the
meeting
manager
coming up.
is going to meet with them, and, I mean, they're going to try to work in conjunction with the county to see what they can, because Jeffrey and I have been down this road for, when I first came on, I thought it was our library was deplorable, and they looked at me like,
they, in all due respect, they have improved it.
Yeah, they
The
have.
part of the
Yeah.
problem, they did bring a new librarian in who is much more progressive, and yes, it is greatly improved, but they've done what has been part of their job in the agreement, which was the operation of the library. They've gone as far as when we had expanded phone service because of the computer hookup there, that was our responsibility that the town had to pick up, because phones is part of the building responsibility in the lease. And I predict, having dealt with them in the past, that they'll go by the letter of the law that's in the agreement. If it's building-related, it's our problem. If it's
Well,
operations,
then maybe
they'll
we
take
need to
care of it.
consider not being in the system because we don't get anything out of it. I think we
Well,
should
we've
demand
done
we
that- we've
get
gone that way, too.
We've
$17,000.
investigated that before.
Not since I've been here. Maybe you have, but I'm not aware of it. I mean, do we not want to ask them for the 17,000?
Oh, I do.
No, we can ask, you can always ask, you got nothing. to lose.
Absolutely.
We'll
We have
ask.
there's nothing to lose.
Sure.
Okay.
They may send us some books.
They actually just
Did the
did.
windows open there? If the air condition breaks down?
Is that it on, oh, wait, is there more? No, that's
One more on
police.
another page.
I'm sorry, where is, okay, sure.
Mayor,
Remove the
I'm
sewage.
sorry, before you proceed, just, I want to point one thing out, removal of the old sewage plant. Is that the big hole that's here in the wooded area?
Yeah.
That just reminds me of something, and the need to really start nailing down a plan for the municipal building. Because if we were to do a new municipal building, understand that all these facilities now are on septic system. And I think one of the things we need to talk about when we get there is getting the whole campus connected to a sewer line, which isn't going to be inexpensive, but doing it in such a way that can accommodate growth in terms of where the lines are placed and stuff. So
Are we in the sewer septic system?
there's going to be a lot of issues for us to take into consideration and a lot of preliminary work to do before we can even get started. So we're going to get started.
Is there more on G5?
Yes.
Yes.
This is the police and the court.
Police in the court.
HVAC?
HVAC controls, when that building was put in 91, it had the greatest and latest
Okay.
on one side of the building and the oldest and greatest. It had air pneumatic on one side and computer-driven on the other. The company that put the computer-driven in no longer exists. There were problems getting the controls, and the old air system was outdated when they put it in there. We got a lot of the controls actually down there on hand. We actually go down and we operate dampers and motor drives because the parts aren't there no more to function it. The s-
Okay.
The second one is the chiller for that building. It's the AC unit that runs it. It creates cold water to pump it through the building. It's been in there since 91. It runs pretty much 11 months a year to cool that building. It's not like a regular summer air conditioner that can just only run during the summer months. We actually had half of the system down for most of the year last year with parts and Band-Aids. It's been up and running, and hopefully we'll make most of this summer. We've been down
We
there.
got a call
We were
tonight
down
from
there
the
tonight
judge.
before we came here for it already. So we're praying that we get through the summer.
Septic system.
Septic system, same thing. That building was built for roughly 60 to 70 police officers. He's well at around 100 and something now, plus the court staff, plus office staff, plus
And
the
the
court,
public.
plus the court load itself of public. System cannot handle the load. It releases on a regular basis.
Can this be,
Deferred for a little while?
yeah, patched or held for a year or two? Since we're talking building, where Mr. Chernesky just talked about a sewer plan for the campus. This is one item that, I agree with Councilman, if we can defer this a year or so, it might be $50,000 saved.
Right.
I would say probably do like a minor expansion, we'll call it a repair to the system for a couple, maybe $8,000-$10,000. We repair one of the laterals that's bad to give us more capacity. And
Well,
then
you
we,
need to do something because
Because
the
it-
use of that building over the last several years with the additional personnel and people that come into that building every day and use the facilities, it's, you can, like
Millie, you need to
Cynthia
talk
said-
into your
Oh, I'm sorry.
microphone.
You can defer this for a while, but you're not going to defer it that long. For us to get calls down here because something's backing up downstairs or upstairs, and I know that, you have a game plan here with all these buildings, but there are some things that need to be addressed like yesterday, and the septic system is one. You can't fool around with this. Same thing with our building down there too.
Should I tell you for 3 weeks that my building, our septic system went down and we were on public sewer and my guys had to, for 3 weeks. Now, You want to talk about paying for nothing? Every time they have to go to the restroom, they had to, until it was done.
Yeah, you
3
can't-
weeks.
This is
And you're
something
down
that
3
we don't-
weeks without a restroom.
We are
You're in
releasing to
trouble.
grade at times.
What are you?
We're leasing to grade, top to surface. So if we put a minor repair to a lateral, we could get a little bit more time until we can go further, instead of going for the full system.
Yeah. I think, again, the idea is, the goal here is, before we start building anything, we're going to have to put everything onto a sewer line. Get a ground plan to know exactly where things are going to go, the concept plan I talked about, and then the rational phasing in of the infrastructure for everything.
Well, it's been represented by some people in the community that we shouldn't put sewer in this campus because it'll open up the surrounding area to high-density development, and the developers are all hiding under the desks waiting to come in. I say that somewhat tongue-in-cheek, but there's concern
Right.
that would be the case. What's your thinking about that?
You would be able to handle that with the dedicated line tailored to fit just the campus. And there's different ways where we can run it, but I'm familiar with a number of cases where there's facilities out in PA4, PA5 planning areas that have very small dedicated lines that are public facilities.
All right, so on this one, you'll work with the manager to come up with a temporary plan so that we can remedy what's there, but in light of a bigger plan, it doesn't make sense to spend $50,000.
Yeah.
Okay. What else do we have here? Front steps and railing?
Front steps and railings, the steps over there, the concrete's falling, which the top surface is releasing. We've patched it. Our insurance carrier also wants us to install additional railings. Our railings are too far apart for safety's sake. If somebody needs to be able to reach them, they're too far apart. Actually, it's there and the library would be repaired.
That would do for both places?
That's yes, in the worksheet, it actually shows both places.
And I think we've already heard about the violations window. For some reason, I thought that
Yes.
the chief and the judge commented
They
on that one
presented that,
already,
yeah.
so. Anything else on capital for buildings and grounds?
Just to make the council aware, we went out to bid to get professional services to do a floor plan for us. That's out there now. In
For the
works.
police department,
For the
The
court, for
violations.
the
Right, the
violations
court.
bureau. Yep.
which, can't recall the gentleman's last name.
Dominic.
Dominic
Correct.
had talked to us about. So is there anything else for buildings and grounds?
No, thank you.
Is that it? Thank you
Thank
both
you
very
very
much.
much.
Appreciate your time. CFO and then the manager. Ms. Filiatro, what page?
Actually, I'm going to ask Jeffrey to cover mine as well, since he put it together,
Sure.
and I'll jump in where I have to.
Terrific.
Don't look surprised. When I bribed you before, you said that you would do that.
Yes, I did say I would do it.
With a cookie.
All right, handle finance. First one I have is financial administration, which is on the bottom of J2.
Okay.
As quick recap, at the recommendation of the township auditor during the last audit, I have requested, and it is on the cheat sheet list, that we will give you a new bookkeeper. That the auditor did recommend in my office, and I have followed through and made that request.
So that's an add to staff?
That's an add to staff.
So that's in the 12.57%?
Yes.
Without that person, what would the increase is more in line with the other?
Without that, it's, I mean, there's no other change in staff, so it's the
normal
contractual pay
increase.
raises. On my OE, see if I can, give me a moment, I'm on computer.
Oh, great selling point, Jeff.
I was in buildings and grounds, I'm sorry.
Those are
There
for the
is-
Board of Ed budgets, which we could take out.
Yes, there is $10,000 in there that now is no longer needed. Special projects for the auditor as far as the school budgets. As of today, we now know we can reduce the special consultants line item by $10,000. There is a substantial increase in that, and I do think that warrants explanation. Up until last July, the bank that we do our major operating banking with was absorbing the cost of the ADP payroll services. As of last July, they ceased to do so due to business purposes and the way the banking industry is going. Since I did not budget for any such increase in the middle of the year, that cost has still been paid by the bank. We're paying for it in compensating services. We're lost of interest, if you will.
Who's our bank?
Bank of America.
Bank of America?
That's our main operating funds are in. I currently am putting together a new RFP for banking services. But in the meantime, several years back, we had done this. I'd much rather invest all the money that I have available for investing and make the interest I can make rather than have it go for offsetting of interest costs as far as ADP. So I have projected the ADP cost back in my operating budget, freeing the balances up for full investment. So that's a major. That's approximately $33,000 is the cost of our payroll services. Certainly would like to see, I don't know if any other bank, I've got to do an RFP. I don't know if any other bank is picking up payroll service. I don't know of any at this point in time. Talking with other CFOs who have changed banking services recently and RFP'd banking services, it's something that its day has passed as far as the banks go.
Just full disclosure, because I'm sure it'll come up at a council meeting. Yes, the parent company I work for is owned by a bank, so please assure everyone up here, Mr. Philadelphia, whatever you do would certainly not involve me when you go out for banking business.
Certainly, that's one of the reasons why I do prefer to RFP it, because I don't want to put anybody in a bad situation.
So I didn't hear what you said. I'm sorry.
It certainly is why I do intend to RFP it, as I did the last time, as I did not want to put any member of a council or myself in a bad situation.
Of course.
Certainly, no one can criticize us for doing a request for proposal.
Absolutely.
Everything else is in my budget is, I have some dues. We had a decrease. I no longer belong to Tax Collectors and Treasurers Association. I found it redundant to the Government Finance Officers Association. And licenses do not have to be renewed this year, so there's a decrease in the dues. Training and education, I'd pare that down more in line with what we expended last year. I have 2 licensed finance officers in town. Both of us have required continuing education in order to maintain our licenses. You have actually a deal in that half of my continuing education I get from my teaching, the rector's instruction. So I don't spend as much money as I would have to expend on continuing education in order to maintain my license. So we keep that to a minimum, and that's my entire budget for financial administration. I have other departments.
Okay. Want to take us through?
Next item is audit services. It's the next page. Just flip over. Next item in your worksheet.
Stays the same.
This request is based on last year's amount. I don't recall. I don't think I updated as far as this year's proposal. It was based on last year's amount. Of course, 16% of the cost is allocated to sewer. This is the 84% allocated to township. Before this budget is finalized, I will double check with the contract and see if there's any changes. I'll reflect that. Insurance. That is
Page.
Did we do MIS already? I mean,
Yes, I am. That has been,
Dave did, he was here, right?
He was here,
I can't
yes.
recall.
insurance is on J10. There is, it's kind of skewed in the way I allocated between liability and workers' comp, but there is a 6% increase in the joint insurance cost. I see I'll get allocated to the workers' comp line, which kind of skews it to 15% on the one line, but 0% on the others. That has been under control and well controlled on the joint insurance fund. Part of that reason is the administrative cost of the joint insurance fund is becoming shared by many more. We are now one of the largest joint insurance funds in the state. There are now 18 towns that are a member of this joint insurance fund, sharing the load, the administrative load. The administrative costs really have not increased dramatically from when we were 6 towns, and has gone a long way to keeping down our costs. I want to point out that there was what they call an SIR. The first $50,000 of workman's comp was a self-insured factor. We actually paid the first $50,000 in costs of workman's comp claims with continual savings. And with the addition of towns, that is now down to $25,000 for all the towns in the joint insurance fund. So for a relatively small increase in costs over the years, we actually have better coverage than we had when we joined. The hospitalization is always an ugly picture. I have reflected in there and the $300,000 adjustment. There's also an offsetting adjustment over in sewer to reflect the change of carrier as of March 1st.
The savings,
And the savings, yes.
And the joint savings was for the record?
300,000. Well, it was 360.
Right.
You've got 300 here, and I guess the balance is in the sewer.
There is some in sewer. There are a couple health benefit line items in 911 budget, Homeland Security. So it's kind of splattered around. But yes, there was $360,000, and that's the cut that I have made through all the budget line items.
Great.
Next one is a real quick one. Direct aid to fire company, aid to volunteer fire companies on page J12. Traditionally, this is a cash donation made to the Farmingdale Fire Company. They are a volunteer fire company. There is no fire districts in Farmingdale. And they do respond to calls in Howell Township, and they do cover calls in Howell Township. And the governing body has chosen to make this contribution to them for as many years as I can remember. Next one, right underneath it, aid to volunteer first aids, $210,000. There is a statutory maximum of 70,000.
70. Yes.
That the 3 first aid squads that's we make the maximum cash contribution that we're allowed to make under the statute to each one of them.
70,000 is the maximum we're allowed to give them.
Yes, in cash. We also provide
We
repair
buy an ambulance
services
here,
on
so-
their ambulances. We provide them fuel.
We repair the vehicles at no cost.
Yes, we repair the vehicles. Next item that is mine is Community Services Act. J16 on the very top. This is the condo law, the reimbursement of the condominiums for the snow plowing, leaf collection, street lighting, that sort of thing. We currently have 4 contracts in place. course, we don't know how much snow we're going to have to know exactly what the final cost will be for the year until we feel how many storms we have in the fall. Most of the other costs are pretty much fixed as far as leaf collection and street lighting. There is a decrease in that, in past years, we have been catching up on years where we didn't have an agreement and owed the associations back amounts, and we have been paying them back over a 3-year period, and that is over with, so those back payments are no longer budgeted. Next item I have is aid to the public library. We have $5,000 that has been budgeted for each year that offsets the cost of the computer, the high-speed computer connection down there, the T1 line, and we also buy some books from the township, and we try to make sure we expend all the $5,000 by the end of the year for the library. Next item I have on the bottom of that page, accumulated leave. Several years back, the town did adopt resolution establishing a dedication by rider, a dedicated fund to fund some of the accrued sick time and accrued leave that people are paid on retirement. We have had to report that for years. The state now is allowing the town to build and fund that in stages. We have about a $2.8 million liability if everybody were to retire and cash in all their time right now. So we have been traditionally funding $75,000 a year to build that fund. We have been using that fund as retirees come in to take a lot of strain off our budget when these people have accrued time by contract that they're paid for at the retirement. We have tapped that in the past. It is growing slowly. At this pace, we probably should fund our entire liability in about 20 years. But certainly it's better than nothing. Next item I have is probably one that it scares the heck out of me. Page J20, utilities, bulk purchases. I have projected gasoline prices at, oh, thank goodness, $2.50 a gallon. At the time that we were doing the budget, we thought, that's too high.
Yeah, is the heat on?
No.
Oh.
No, we're just talking about gas prices, and everybody's starting to feel a little warmer in the collar.
You need a cold beverage or?
The last load of fuel that we got, of course, we don't pay taxes on our fuel, so we don't pay the same prices as you and I do at the gas pumps. But the last load we got last month was $1.80 a gallon. So I'm very, very uneasy. I'm not at this point in time suggesting that we do anything with this. We haven't reached $2.50 a gallon as of yet, so we're building a cushion, if you will, on our budget right now, since the price is down, that if the price should go to $2.60 or $2.70 over the summer, $2.80, we may be able to survive it. Maybe we can cover it with transfer in November if we can live through that, but certainly it is of concern of mine because of the cost of fuel now, and it's going up and not going down. And we can't park the police cars. We're going to have to find fuel for them somewhere along the line during the year. So, but I hate to, I can't justify right now saying to you, well, let's go to $3 a gallon, because I don't know if we're going to reach that yet. They're talking about that at the pumps, but there's 45-cent state tax. I forget what the federal tax is on the gasoline that we don't pay.
This is where the pressure comes on our new manager. We need to find ways to cut back in this area. Question for you, and if I had $1 for every time I've either had a phone call or an email or a message left in regards to the police cars being, they'll be parked. I get two favorite places. One is in the new plaza down on Route 9 where they'll say, oh, there's 3 police cars parked together and there's nobody in there but the cars are running. Or the other place that they'll say is a place in Farmingdale. There's some little place. I think I asked you this. Remember one time I think I called you and asked you, Bruce, is it a law that they must leave the cars running? I think, and you correct me if I'm wrong, you told me that because the power that it has to do with the equipment, it drains the battery, therefore they leave the cars running all the time?
Computer equipment.
Yeah.
I've talked to the chief about this too, because I'd see the gas bills come in. The cars have repeaters, so that the police officers, the walkie-talkies feed through the car radios. They stay on. Normally the computers stay on. They have so much gizmos and stuff in them now that if they were to shut the cars down, the battery would probably go dead in 15 to 20 minutes. And so, out of necessity to make sure they are still in radio contact in case of emergency, that they now have, many of the patrol cars now have the VCRs with the TV cameras that continue to run, that the police officers have no control on. They can't turn them on and off. That they just out of necessity, they must run on generator. They just cannot last but a few minutes on battery.
What I would say, though, is that's true, but technology is changing, and technology is adapting to recognize what's happening with fuel. But that requires, as we replace equipment over time, that we look at those options. But I would say they don't. I would venture to guess at this point that they don't. Those options weren't incorporated in our current vehicles.
So we have to come back and revisit this, is what this sounds like.
I think we may survive this. I just wanted to express my concern that, my crystal ball may not be any clearer than your crystal ball, whether or not $2.50 a gallon is sufficient enough on a 12-month basis to cover what the gas price is going to do in the future.
Jeffrey, how do you base this on the number of vehicles? Because you have it broken down, all others, and then police. How many police vehicles does that cover?
We do it by gallonage from the gas boy. Okay. The Public Works Department gives us the gallonage of gasoline that the police department uses versus the other vehicles uses. This is gasoline. This is diesel.
Okay.
We don't do it by vehicle as much as we do it by the gallonage that we pump through the pumps into the Public Works and all the pool vehicles versus the police vehicles, and we keep that separate because that's how the state wants us to do it.
Okay, what else, Mr. Filiatro?
Contingent. This one is real hard. This is our unanticipated expenses. Traditionally, we budget $25,000 a year. I have not changed it. It's still $25,000 a year. Some years we spend close to that. Some years we don't. There is a statutory limitation in the statute. I'm not recommending we go to the statutory limitation because that's $1 million. It's a percentage of the budget. Statutory is my next one. On the top of the next page, Dave 21.
Actually, a question on the contingency. Where's the money from last year? Just sitting in the account?
No, last year's money? No, yeah, it's just sitting in the account.
How much is in that account total?
Just a minute. About $16,000 this year.
Okay.
It lapses at the end of the second year. So, like the money we didn't spend in '04 went into our surplus this year.
Okay.
The money we don't spend in '05 goes into our surplus this year. Statutory, the biggest item, we have Social Security, which is a product of salary and wages. The other items on here are the two pensions. Public employees pension system, which is 183% increase. And police and fire, which is almost 100% increase from last year.
Mayor, that increase was driven by state policy not reimbursing us as they did in previous years.
The other items, the LoSAP is due for adjustment now. We have the final bill, and we actually have made the payment. I believe that was, I have to review that, but that needs to be cut. That was $50,000 odd. So we certainly can cut that
right?
pretty close to $100,000, and certainly will.
What's that police pension outside?
And the only other thing we have is we have the one fireman's widow pension by ordinance, by statute, that's funded to that category.
Why such a huge jump in that police pension outside caps again?
There's a 4-year phase-in that the pension payment, which should be around 1.3, 1.4, 1.5 million dollars. They're phasing it in 25% increments. From last year was the first year, this year is the next year. They're going to continue to increase over the next couple of years. Public employees pension is not quite as expensive, but that's going to also increase over the years to where it's back to around $300,000 to $400,000 a year is this normal funding level that the town has been paying in the past. There was a 4-year period that we were not billed funding for the pension plan. Well, the stock market was in good shape and everybody was happy and everybody was going well. They says, oh well, towns don't pay any money into the pension plan. We'll give you a nice break. We'll also take state aid away from you equal to that amount of money. Now, guess what? The pension payments are back because the pensions are suffering from the economy like everything else. State aid isn't.
These things are going on our website. All this kind of stuff.
Jeffrey, what percentage is the pension of a salary for both pensions? Do you know? Is it 6% for PERS?
Ours varies. The employee pay a PERS employee pays 5% of salary. A police and fire pays 8.5% of salary. That's employee funding. The township funding is an actuarial calculation. They take all the employees' contributions and say this is how much money we should have in the pension plan in order to pay for the retirements and bill the township the difference.
Okay, traditionally, it's been a match,
running,
though, right?
The town's share. It runs about 6%, maybe just a little bit above the employees for PERS. Police and fire, the town share is much larger than the employee share.
All right, so just to be clear, in addition to the salary that employees receive, the township also contributes an additional about 6% towards the pension.
But
And so does
6%
the
PERS,
employee.
about 10%, 10 to 12% for police and fire.
All right, what else, Mr. Filiadro?
Let's see.
I can cover
Well,
mine.
I guess we can, interlocal service agreement, which is really managers, as the bus route, $32,000. I don't.
Where is this?
I'm not sure which.
Bus route.
Which page is that on, though?
It's probably back a couple of pages, isn't it, Judy?
Page J23.
And which bus route is this?
The one that services the seniors, I believe.
This is senior bus route?
This is the county bus
County
route,
bus
yes.
route, 32,000, it stays the
We
same.
pay the county?
I have another fire district pass-through payment, that's down on the greens. J25. Or
J22, isn't it?
23,
23?
19,000.
Fire services, you're
19,831, this is the same amount. When the state took probably 15 different aid programs and consolidated into what they call Consolidated Municipal Aid, CompTRA, they included aid that would go to fire companies. The reason being some towns have volunteer fire companies and the aid would come to the township. We have fire districts, so we are required by law just to take $19,831 of our aid and pass it on to the 5 fire districts. It's a fixed dollar amount, and therefore, you know, we're stuck with it. Page J25, debt service. Now, this we have discussed before. We have funded most of our capital projects through 2004, including the original amount slated for the acquisition of Harms Pinnacle property. And this year is the first year that there will be payments, principal and interest payments made on that new bond. So our debt service, our debt service for principal is just about double last year's principal payments were the last year that we made principal payments on the one main remaining bond, which was in the library and the police station. And again, the interest payments, of course, have shown quite a difference from $43,000 to $1.3 million. Naturally, most of the payments now at the beginning of the bond are going to be interest related as we start making payments.
Jeffrey, what is the revenue on the open space tax?
Right now, $578,000 per year. It's 2 cents over rateable.
2 cents.
Okay.
Just a moment.
It's isn't 1 cent committed to park development?
Not anymore. 588,000. 1 cent. There was a 1 cent tax that was committed to farm improvement when the new referendum was done to increase the tax to 2 cents. It's no longer restricted
so
as
it's
far as it's for
both.
anything allowed under that.
Okay, and are those funds being applied to any of to the debt payment now on our open space acquisitions?
No.
They are not. Is that a policy issue?
It's never come up.
Well, at the beginning, at this point, we were dealing with the 1 cent for many years, up until I think last year was the first year of
2 years ago.
cent. But I don't think it showed up in the tax bills till last year.
Okay, you could be right.
In 05. I think the referendum was in 04 and 05 was the year it was reflected in the tax bills. So it really is a matter of deciding, we really
You guys
have only
look into
brought
that?
in $588,000 of unrestricted money at this point in time.
I think there needs to be some clarification on where council wants to go with the use of those. Is there what's the current balance in the open space trust fund? I'm sorry to put you.
About $1.7 million, I think.
$1.7 million. So there's $1.7 million.
About $1 million of that is restricted to the use of farmland preservation.
How much?
About $1 million.
$1 million.
Just off the top of my head, I can get you
Okay.
better figures for that.
Okay, and so we currently take in $580,000. Just from my experience, Mayor, typically what towns do is they use the revenue from the open space trust fund to pay the mortgage on whatever consolidated debt they put together for all the land that they purchase. And I'm not.
Make a lot of sense.
And I'm not. clear as to what we're using our open space trust fund for as I looked at the debt.
It's been primarily used to just acquire open space.
Just actually the farmland preservation, the PIG program.
Right. The PIG program has been used to match our matching piece.
A one-time payment or ongoing debt maintenance for that?
No, just one-time payments.
Just
Or
one-time
16%.
payments. Okay.
We really have not used it for anything else.
Is that something we could ask you two gentlemen to work offline? And that sounds like a wonderful idea.
It is an item that I have on for our discussion of the big picture when we start looking and tying this budget together.
How are you going to get it down to zero? Yeah.
Okay, so I've sort of raised the policy issue with the number of people, and no one seems to be clear. So I think it's an item we need to have a good conversation
Yeah.
about.
That's a.
What's that, Tom? Could you help me, please?
Oh,
Sorry.
we have a open space trust fund, or a municipal open space tax, and it generates revenue every year. In at least the municipalities I'm familiar with, that revenue is used to offset the debt associated with your open space acquisitions. What towns have done is they consolidated all the debt from their acquisitions, got a decent rating, interest rate, because they consolidated the debt. As long as it's open space, they're using that money to use the debt payment. Now in some cases where what you're bringing in isn't sufficient to meet the debt, you ask the residents to perhaps consider, revisiting the open space tax and where that sits. So what I indicated to council is that there isn't currently any direction in terms of what we do with that money other than, I guess, farmland preservation at this point. So we need to have a good policy discussion as to the use of that income.
What else will we do with other than farmland preservation? Recreation? What?
You can do towns set policies. You can use it for development of land that you acquired. You cannot use it for operating expenses.
Can't go into general fund.
Right, but you can do it for capital improvements and development of parkland or acquisition of open space. That's what the statutes allow you to do, but then towns craft their own policies. In some cases, they have a dedicated 1 cent park improvement fund, and then like a 2 or 3 cent open space acquisition fund.
The first time the ballot was passed, it was limited to farmland preservation. When we amended it, and we put it on the ballot, we altered it so that it would not only address farmland preservation, but open space in general for passive, active recreational uses, municipal use.
We use straight statutory language.
Straight statutory language. So but there is still a portion of those monies that was allocated to the original 1 cent, which is limited to just farmland acquisition purposes. Monies that have come into the account since the second ballot have been earmarked for either or.
Right.
So the policy question that hopefully you guys can come back to us with some recommendations on is, can we use some of the monies that accumulate, at least a portion of the 2 cents going forward that isn't encumbered to farmland under the old 1 cent, can we use some of that to pay off the mortgage, which seems like a pretty neat financing idea.
Sort of the intention, or a lot of towns have interpreted that way.
It would appear we don't have anything that restricts us from doing it, although it hasn't come up until now.
It certainly is sanctioned,
Okay.
and certainly is a viable use of the money.
Good. What else, Mr. Filiatro?
I have deferred charges. Deferred charges are deferred charges. There's not much we can do about them. There is, we have 2 5-year emergencies that we need to continue funding on, and that is the master plan and the reval. We're in year 3, I think, of 5-year funding on those. We have 2 emergencies that we adopted last year that need to be funded for $170,000. And there is also funding on the old capital ordinance, the old Green Acres capital ordinance, that when we get down to wrapping up the budget and looking at the big picture, I want to go back and revisit, and we want to talk about the funding on that one. That's $100,000 at this point in time. And I do want to discuss that further when we're looking at our tax rate and wrapping up the budget. We can start on managers now, if you wish.
I'll do it.
You do it?
But just
Good.
a couple things you might have to jump in.
Okay.
What page is this?
J1.
Budget is
J1.
J1.
J1. The salary request for the office is $347,587. That includes my salary and the salary of 2 clerical assistants. Also housed in my office is the Human Resources Administrator, who also has an assistant. That budget also includes a deputy manager. What I would say at this point is that I anticipate in the final budget there'll be a reduction because I'm holding off on any sort of decision in that direction as I weigh the needs of the other departments vis-a-vis the efficiency study and what I think is going to deliver the greatest customer service, the greatest customer improvements. So as we go along, obviously that person's not on payroll now, so as we get on in the year, that number would be less and less. We'll talk about that more down the road. But there will be an adjustment in that account. In terms of operating expenses, I guess the copy machines for the building are funded through my account, correct, Jeffrey?
She told us about that, yeah.
That's,
Okay.
that's all the copy paper, and in one line item, rather than try to split it up among departments.
Okay. Meals awards, public relations.
This is,
I haven't tapped
Your
that
birthday
myself.
party?
Right.
well, one of the biggest things is a pizza for Student Government Day,
Right.
and the lunch that we
A
give to
luncheon
the
that we do.
students. Your coffee, and the coffee grinds and the coffee supplies.
Very important.
Gotcha.
Actually, I
Grants.
think we should cut that, and we should all supply our own. If taxpayers can't get free coffee, neither should we.
I threw in the cake tonight.
$35,000 grant services. That's with that was a contract award made during, I guess, back in reorganization with Bolin Associates to
Yes.
help out on a number of
Miller
grants.
Boland.
I guess the most recent one council was made aware of was the Environmental Center, and it was a Green Acres grant application. They're working on a few grant applications, and
One is out here for the streetscape.
streetscape.
You know, the lights, the sidewalks, whatever.
Right.
Can I,
Pop Warner and-
is there a list of what grants that the township has received since they've been doing these for us? Writing them for us?
There is a list of grants that they've applied for. I'll get that to you.
How long has she been, how long have we
It
had
was,
it? 1
well,
year?
We
it's
received,
just about a year.
We received one for $600,000 last year. I think that was for a trail. It's a match, but we got half of it for trail system at Harms Pinnacle.
But if we don't have the monies to match it, the grant's no good for us.
Right, that's correct.
Okay. Can I ask, ratio per the amount of grants we get? She's on a set salary, that's what she gets, $35,000,
Right.
correct?
Right, that's correct. It's a flat rate.
What do you, look like a Cheshire cat, look at him, his face. Okay.
Well, I guess the point is there was a contract that was awarded, and we're halfway through the year on that contract, and you'll get a status report on those grants from me.
Good.
Okay, going on down the line. Specialized expenses. Jeffrey, what is that?
These are items that usually is coordinated through Human Resources. There could be a blood pathogen, CDL testing. We do random drug testing, right to know training, reasonable suspicion training if we have somebody that we think might be impaired at work and all. Sexual harassment training, we have to do that every other year. And if need be, there's money provided in there if we need to do any psychological evaluations of any employees,
Yours truly.
non-police employees.
About once a week, I I need to let go and cry a little. That's all right. I'm fine.
I'll be okay.
It'll be all right.
Didn't take long, did it?
Just tears of joy. Tears of joy.
That's right.
They got to curb my enthusiasm. Okay, equipment maintenance and repairs. That basically is for the whole floor, right?
This is for everything but the MIS equipment. It's the biggest single item is the $8,400 for the master copier contract. With one contract covers all the copy machines, and then all the other equipment repairs we have that is not computer related.
Okay, postage is for the whole building, correct?
It's for the entire town.
The entire
I
town.
have to ask the question. This is only municipal, for the municipality, right?
Yes.
No organizations. We don't do any organizations under the auspice of municipal.
No, I can't say that. No, we do
I know
we do pay postage
where
for
you're
the messenger. That's a joint project between us and the Chamber of Commerce. I think boards and commissions do have if they're sending something out for
What boards and commissions?
Planning board.
planning board, rent and leveling board, historical society, if they have official newsletter or something they're mailing out, a rec advisory committee, they have availability of using our postage machine and sending the postage out if it's township related. So
The rec advisory is, the rec advisory and the historical society both have their own, first of all, they both have their own, not citizens advisory, that's an advisory board. Why would they be sending anything out?
Well, if they send a
Well,
letter to a resident, I think
I
it's.
use them as examples. I don't know if they are in fact sending anything out or not.
And
I use them as example. I know the historical society does use our copy machines.
they use our copy machines and we do their postage. Why?
I believe that's been the policy of the town for longer than I can remember.
But they have their own budget.
Historical, no. You do not have a
No.
budget for historical society any longer.
We
But
eliminated
they
that
have,
2 years ago.
they have their own
They-
budget.
they raise their own-
They raise their own money.
They have their own money. They are,
But I think that's
How
a
much
policy.
postage do they use on a yearly basis, you think? I mean, I know that they mail out, quarterly or so
Yes.
to all residents?
No, I
Never
don't
gotten
believe they do.
I do get it.
I get,
I don't get it.
I always have.
I get it here. I don't get it mailed to my home.
Right. That's where I get it here.
You get it mailed to your house?
Are you a member?
I was supposed to be a member, but I couldn't come up with the $15.
You could get out of our dues allotment.
If they were mailing those township-wide, the cost would be,
That's what I want to know. What is the cost of that? Is it-
Exorbitant.
Is it a minuscule? Is it minuscule?
Yeah, is it worth discussing, or
Yeah,
is it
so
just?
that's my
yeah.
point. Is it minuscule? It's a minuscule thing? Jeff, you get back to me on that.
we can find it.
Yeah, I think it's
I don't
more of
wanna
a
debate.
policy that the governing body's made. We don't account, only postage we account for separately is the sewer, since they are
And
their
I
own
don't
cost
think we
center.
should target the historical society. I mean, if that would apply across the board to any
Correct. That's what I
groups
said.
out there that we're paying postage for.
Right.
I'd like to know how
Little
much we're
leagues.
spending on those.
No.
Approximately.
We'll have to put a program in place. We don't have not had a program to track them, so we'll have to put a program into place to track them.
I'll bring my
to
mail up
let you
here
know.
next week.
Meetings and conferences, this is to, for the, I guess, the,
That's the league.
just the league? Is that just for me?
No, that's the membership,
leagues.
and it's also the
Staying at the
registrations
board,
at the League of Municipalities Convention in the fall.
That's
For-
which
for-
one
for
is those?
everyone,
For
right?
everyone.
Memberships
For
and
everyone.
dues.
So
That's membership and dues?
No, that's conferences and meetings, right?
That's conferences and
Oh, I'm
meetings?
sorry.
Conferences and meetings.
They're $2,300?
Yeah. And that pays for everyone's fees to go to the municipal conference,
That's
correct?
the municipal conference.
Okay. Membership and dues, That includes, I guess that also includes the
That
league
includes the
membership?
annual membership to the league, New Jersey Municipal Managers, the annual membership to the league, Chamber of Commerce.
Planners Association, ICMA, does that include ICMA? No,
Yeah, ICMA, yes.
okay. Books and publications, that's $800, and training and education, we put in $500. All right, okay.
You have other departments.
Oh, I have other departments.
Oh, yes, you do. Oh, legal services.
Oh, legal services.
Legal services, where's that at?
J5.
J5.
Five, bingo.
This is legal? You said legal services?
Yes, sir.
Yes. J5.
What springs to mind, can we have a 5-minute executive session after this? Just 2 minutes. Enough for me to get a sentence out of my mouth. It's under legal services.
I don't
okay?
think, does Bruce need to stay if he has to go? I don't think
Bruce,
he needs, I don't
believe
think he
me,
needs
I don't
to
want
be
to do
here.
this. I have got 5 hours of work, and I have to be on a plane. I have to leave my house at 5 a.m., so it's going to take 5 minutes. But under legal services, I need to ask the question.
Well, council's familiar with all the litigation that's ongoing in the community, and
Yeah.
this pays for, this covers our legal expenses in the area of labor relations, different sort of settlements, land use
down.
settlements, township attorney fees, attendance at bankruptcy proceedings, those sort of things.
So it's up by roughly 1.4%.
Correct.
But for the record, in 2004 was 792,000, in final in 2005 was 590,000. So there was a significant drop there. But we're going back.
And we're projecting 585 for
Right.
'06, so we're continuing our trend.
All right.
Jeffrey, let me just ask this question. Where there's
public denials that we actually did it, here it is.
where there's expenses associated with things that are like open space acquisitions and closings, are those paid for through this budget, or are they done through the bonds?
No, the land acquisition and those items are directly charged to the bonds.
The bonds,
And
okay.
The cost of
Not
this,
here.
it's not charged to
Down
our
a
legal
lot.
services account.
Okay, which is good.
It's down, rather. Right,
Okay.
yeah, it's
Do
down
I
by
have anything
3%.
else?
No, sir.
Okay. Okay.
All right, pick a date.
What I would like to, excuse me, Tom.
ahead.
As I recall, before we do that, legal expenses last year were down 35% from what they were the year before. I want to make sure I got this right. We spent $596,000 in legal last year, right? And in
dropped.
2004, we spent $807,000. I just want to make sure I get this right,
Where'd you
because
get 800? Oh, yeah.
that's right there. 2004 was 807 minus 596,002, 210,000 divided by 807,000. So what's the percentage? You have that, Mr. Filiatro? You're probably better at this than me.
That's 26%.
26%.
It
Gee.
dropped. 26
Okay,
and
just want to make sure that, okay. Now, there was all kind of public confusion around different kinds of numbers and what actually happened, but, so this sheet is accurate, right?
Yes, sir.
And your office produced this, right?
Yes, sir.
That's good to know.
Are there any other legal services of any kind charged to the township, Mr. Filiatro? Any other legal services whatsoever that the township pays for?
Oh, sure.
Like what?
Oh, sure. There's, of course, developers escrow.
But that's not paid by the
You know,
taxpayers.
It's not paid by the taxpayers,
Oh,
no.
that,
There is the land acquisition and the bonding costs and all that
Right.
does come out of
But that's-
the bonds.
that comes out of bonding.
You know, and that eventually does get paid for by the taxpayers as far as,
But for legal services, that's it.
So that's-
on
that's
them.
But for
Fine.
pure legal,
Yeah.
so if someone was to commingle the escrow and the legal, that would be like, that would be wrong, right? In terms of what the taxpayers pay.
Oh, if you're looking what, no. Yeah, if you look at that professional report I prepare from the 1099 list, which includes escrow, it certainly is not being taxpayer funded.
But it would be in the 1099.
Yes.
So somebody could have taken that and maybe misrepresented what the total legal budget was if they added the escrow and the non-escrow.
I don't know if that's, I don't know if I'm comfortable with the word misrepresented, but.
But if somebody did that, it
misunderstood.
wouldn't be accurate in terms of what
No.
the taxpayers pay, right?
Not in terms of what taxpayers pay, no.
Okay. I just wanted to clear that up.
Just to give Mr. Walsh a complete answer, Jeffrey, the tax appeals, are they in this budget? In this particular budget, or they?
The attorney handler tax?
Yeah.
Yes.
And then also, there's the prosecutor and public
Well,
defendant. That's-
Prosecutor and defender have separate line items.
Those are separate line items, but those are also attorneys.
Also, legal services for planning and zoning are separate in the planning and zoning departments.
But have nothing to do with what the
That's
governing
secret.
body has control over,
No.
per se.
That's it.
Right. Good, okay. Phew, boy, I feel much more. I feel so relieved and so vindicated. Thank you.
I feel pretty good too, Mayor.
Next.
I didn't know you weren't feeling good.
One of the things I would like to ask council to do, and we need a meeting to look at the big picture, look at the budget, do our final analysis of the budget, look at capital. I'd like to tell you to take the capital worksheets and be prepared for the next meeting. We need to gear in and finalize what capital. If you recall from my memo, the down payment, the ordinance on Harm's Pinnacle that's in between introduction and adoption, we have exhausted our capital improvement fund money. It's critical, I know, for budgetary purposes, what kind of capital we're going to have on board so I can project what kind of down payment we need to provide for in the budget. And so that needs to come first before we can actually finalize and put the budget together in total. So I would like to talk about that among ourselves and kind of decide on the capital first thing in the next meeting. Then we'd be prepared to look at the big picture and look at some of the big numbers that we have and make some recommendations between Mr. Chernetsky and I over what we have recommended and what we would like to do and where we are. So I'd like to do that soon. If I can, I'd like to be prepared to introduce March 16th if possible.
May 16th.
May 16th. It's an M word.
Meeting date.
I had strongly suggested that we take our middle meeting in May, our
It's
public
May 9th.
participation, and do our budget, because we're going against the clock here.
Do you really think?
Are
we're
you
gonna get this-
suggesting canceling not
Yes.
just labeling it a budget meeting, not a
That's correct.
standard?
We'd have to
Pub-
officially cancel, because
Right.
it's been advertised, public participation, and then schedule a budget meeting on that.
Can we do that? Is that
Yeah, you can do it. It's up to you.
It's
I
fine.
have no problem with that.
Because we're running out
It's
of
fine.
nights.
But is the 9th, I mean, are you looking to
Are you
put
gonna be able
this?
to introduce on the
Will
16th?
the week
then?
give us time to put together a document for introduction?
Well,
on
that's
the
suppose
We
they're gonna-
we may not be able to. There's another little wrinkle that I certainly wouldn't want to make,
So what
a
do you-
factor here, but my first grandchild is due May 10th. Of course, I don't know if she's going to be born on May 10th, but,
Well, as a.
so I'm a little uneasy about that week, and it certainly doesn't give me a whole lot of time to come up with an official document in one
Make a
week.
suggestion.
When do you think we should meet again?
First week in May?
Anybody got any time next week?
You want to do it next week? Does that give you enough time to get ready for the next,
Well, Tuesday, we have the regular meeting on the 25th.
I have some minor checking and adjustments to do here. I'm pretty much prepared. I need to meet with Tom C. over the big picture. We have that scheduled for Friday of this week. you haven't given me a whole lot of computations and calculations to do here. So, you know, I really answer you that I think the biggest thing is to get the capital at least to a point where we can start talking about, if you authorize this much money, we need that much in down payment and that sort of
Well,
thing.
here, I mean, I think the issue with capital is we need to give management an opportunity to go back and look at the things that they had said they would take a look at, give us their perspective on what we absolutely had to have versus what we don't necessarily need to have right now. So we have to allocate enough time for the manager to meet with whomever to come back with a condensed, much shorter list of capital.
Would council, in order to introduction rather than make the introduction on the 16th? Perhaps, you know, a meeting, you know, a 10-minute meeting. There is no public discussion per se, an introduction to the budget. You just need to introduce the budget, announce when the public hearing would be, and start the whole publication and official role. So we could do it on the 9th and perhaps have a special meeting on the 23rd and introduce and get out of here in 15 minutes.
Is that acceptable to everybody? Meeting on the 9th and then a special meeting to have an introduction? Yes?
Assuming we'll be, on the 9th, we'll be ready to introduce and we're comfortable.
Okay. So
in
is that okay then?
introduction.
Good.
What time on the 9th? 6 o'clock again?
I have to tell you, 6 o'clock is really tight for me.
You were the first one here.
I know, and I had, did you hear my phone ring? I had I still working. I still have to go do work.
6:30 is better for me.
I would rather us be all here together and start, like,
6:30.
it makes me nervous when I'm sitting here.
I rushed to get here, and I got here 10 minutes late.
Yeah,
I just
no
wanted,
promises on the 9th. I'm flying back in. So,
well, then
6:30?
it won't work.
Well, can you pick me up with a private plane? You flying in on the 9th?
stay there until I get there, one.
All right.
So it sounds like the 9th isn't going to work.
So you
I
won't
think
be
you
here on the
really
9th,
need to
right?
all be here.
No, I believe I'll be here. Just I know I'm flying back in that day. Who knows what airlines to sit here and say I'll be here at 6 o'clock? I couldn't guarantee it.
So 7 o'clock,
So start at 7 o'clock.
like our regular meeting, 7 o'clock. Budget.
Come on, Bruce. American Idol will be done by then.
All right. Get you, we'll
okay,
get you
let me
TiVo
just,
or-
if I can just say one thing to about, you know, where we are in terms of the budget. One, I just want to acknowledge that council was on a weekend schedule. You had planned a bunch of hearings, and I came on board, and you were kind enough to sort of try to give me some time to really get acquainted with the town and the department. So part of the delay, I will acknowledge, is the fact that I had a pretty steep learning curve here, and you accommodated that for me. But also, I want to point out that, you know, we really can't do anything until the state tells us what our aid is, because it's a significant revenue factor, and that information really just came in also.
Right.
So it's not as if council was dragging their feet. I know you guys were all anxious to get going on this. Just there were outside factors that slowed you down.
All right, so why don't we say the 9th at 7 o'clock? And then we'll have a special meeting to introduce thereafter, which you guys can
23rd.
determine. And a special meeting on the 23rd?
Yeah, what time would you like that to be?
It's the pleasure to council for the special meeting. This is just to introduce it
Yeah,
on the
it's-
23rd, so
It's a 5-minute thing, so.
Well, you still have to have a small public portion, but 10 minutes, so half an hour for the whole-
6:30, is that acceptable?
Yeah.
23rd? You guys will send around a memo so we can all add it to our calendars officially?
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, let's not forget that we have that 8 a.m. meeting on the 29th,
We certainly do.
correct?
We do. That's the meeting with Jersey Management on goal setting, yeah.
That's
Council?
Memorial Day weekend.
Oh, yeah, that's the goal set.
8 o'clock Saturday morning.
That's this month.
Yeah, it's week
Oh,
after
April.
next.
April.
It's April, not
Our
May.
next, we have a meeting on, we have a meeting on the 25th at 6:30,
Oh, I'm not- that's not-
and we have a meeting on Saturday, the 29th at 8 a.m.
Mhm.
And then we have a meeting on the 2nd, the 9th, the 23rd. I mean, the 2nd, 9th, the 16th, and the 23rd.
We'll go over what to do.
Okay.
Can you repeat that again?
Well, why don't we just have the clerk's office send a memo with all these, the latest meetings that we've just come up with?
Well, the 29th has been scheduled.
Right.
29th.
The only meeting we added was the meeting of the 23rd. Every other meeting has already been set.
Yeah, but the 9th was scheduled for 7:30.
For 7:30, and we changed it to 7.
Yeah, we have to cancel.
Well, we're
one
gonna
schedule.
cancel that's the regular meeting though.
Right.
It's the regular
council
public participation
Right.
meeting.
meeting, which is gonna be canceled.
Yes.
Are you ready?
Yes.
25th, we have a meeting at 6:30. That's available. The 29th, it's at 8 a.m. And then we have on the 2nd, normal time. The 9th at 7 o'clock. 16th at 7:30, I think. The 23rd at 6:30. And then Joe and I are here every Thursday.
I just have a couple of comments on the budget before we wrap up. I'm very concerned with respect to where we are from a municipal tax rate perspective. It's obvious we're not going to be getting any aid out of Trenton. It's also obvious that the governor has absolutely no intention of making any real cuts in state spending. He's not going to tackle the bloated workforce. He's not going to deal with the broken pension system. He's not going to deal with the Christmas tree fund. He's not going to deal with the waste and patronage that is absolutely choking the life out of the taxpayers of New Jersey. So once again, municipalities are forced to have to bear the brunt of Trenton's incompetence and the governor's refusal to be a leader. We were faced with a similar situation last year. We made some very difficult decisions that, in my judgment, needed to be made. And having made those decisions, we opened up this budget $900,000 under cap. So obviously, many of the tactical things that we did last year did come to fruition in a way that we felt that they would. We would be even in a worse position this year had we not taken the significant measures that we did last year. We also have 13-cent increase in the local Board of Education. I don't recall from memory what the regional Board of Education increase was. And we have those factors coupled with a reevaluation. So the people in this community, before we even adopt this budget, are obviously facing serious and significant financial hurdles that we need to overcome. So from my perspective, obviously we made some tough things. We made some tough things happen last year, and I don't think we need to revisit those kinds of things. We're not looking at layoffs, at least not to my view. At the same time, I do think that we need to significantly reduce this operating budget. In my judgment, a 3-cent increase on the operating side. We have a different set of issues to tackle as it relates to bonding expenses for the preservation of open space. So if we put that aside for a minute, to my way of thinking, rather than continue to reshuffle the deck chairs on the Titanic, which is often what these meetings remind me of, I think we need to give you, ladies and gentlemen, some direction. And I'm only one person up here, but from my chair, and I talk to taxpayers every day, people have had it. And we need to continue to do our part of absolutely holding the line. So as far as I'm concerned, 3 cents is about what I can live with. And if it's something more than 3 cents, putting aside our bonding obligations, putting that aside, I don't think I'll be able to face the people of this community and say, we have taken a hard line again, like we did last year. And so, just in fairness, I don't think we can give ads to staff. I don't think we can increase overtime. I think we need to reduce overtime further. I think we need to go back and challenge all the departments in a very diplomatic and very meaningful way and engage their help in finding ways to cut this budget. We need to cut spending again because we're not going to get help anyplace else. And quite frankly, no one else seems to have the level of responsibility that we've demonstrated in holding the line. So I just wanted to be candid and share that with you, particularly the manager and the CFO, so that I'm very upfront and I'm very forthcoming. I'm as fiscally conservative as they come, and I don't want to spend an extra nickel than we have to. And so as we get ready for the next budget meeting, that's sort of where I'm coming from insofar as we have got to trim this budget. I certainly will not be able to go to the taxpayers with a straight face and say that we've done the very best we can do with where we're at right now. So I wanted to share that with you before we went home. And I hope you can, I don't mean that to be difficult or disrespectful by any stretch. Our job is to be the policymakers, and I feel very, very strongly that this budget as it stands now with minor shuffling and minor tweaks, I certainly will not vote for it. So I don't know if anyone has any additional comments or remarks on that.
I think I put mine more or less in writing when I give it to you in my evaluation letter. And I basically said what you said, but I think I asked for a 10% overall operating, to utilize people's managerial skills and department head skills to try to curtail our spending if we could decrease our spending by 10%, our operating, through
Deeper than that.
through different methods. But this is a tough budget. This is a scary budget. But I want to remind every board member that sits here that we're starting off with how many cents, Jeffrey, from last year?
Right now?
Mm-hmm.
How many cents from last year? What do you mean?
Oh, yeah.
There's-
You mean
there's,
from
there's
the
some,
bond
there's
debt?
numbers in here we
Yeah.
have not discussed. I mean,
Right.
I've got $1 million thrown
Yeah, it's
in
bond
for
debt.
the capital improvement
It's
fund.
like
I have
5 cents.
no idea.
In
Right.
debt, in
Right.
bond
I
debt.
think,
Bond
uh,
debt.
That's right, correct.
Yeah. So we have to, I just don't want us to.
Well, that's why I
lose
said,
sight
and
of
I
that.
said it
think
about
if we
5
take-
times, we need to separate the bond debt,
Right,
and we need to look at the operating.
Here's,
in.
here's some of the things work against us and against all towns.
Right.
All right. We talked about the pension costs. I'm looking at an analysis that I have prepared for you for.
Jeffrey, I'm sorry. I think these are things, to answer your question directly, I think if you take everything that the staff gave us, that they legitimately said, here's what I think I need to move my organization forward, if you're asking me, you take all that, I think it amounts to somewhere in the neighborhood of a 17-cent tax increase, which obviously council has to weigh in terms of what's going to keep the community viable.
Right.
So it's understood that everything that's asked for isn't realistic, given all that you have to weigh, and it's your job to make these tough decisions. So from 2 of the council members, we've getting a sense now of where you want to be. I think our job is to point out to you options to get where you want to go, but recognize at the same time that some of those options may, and without having the details in front of me, may put you in a position to perhaps abandon investments, to lose value that you've already started. And I think it's our job to help you get to where you want to be, but make sure you have a clear understanding of the implications of that.
Correct.
So that's what we intend on doing. Also, I think it's incumbent upon us to make it clear those costs that are beyond our control. Things like what the state does with pension increases and other things that the state does to us that we don't really recognize
Right.
here or there. So I welcome that. You've listened now to many hours of department heads giving you input. I welcome now you telling me sort of where you think your comfort level is in terms of what the community can live with.
My main concern always is to never forget, once again, and I say this all the time, that we have to continue to make our community affordable for people to continue to live here, and realize that the budget is solely balanced on their backs. They're very difficult decisions, and I'm hoping that you are going to give us guidance to make those right decisions, so that we do not, for instance, what we just did with the property, the open space,
Maybe.
what we're taking on. What we just bonded for. You know, I want to make sure where we're going. I want to look at the overall big picture, because we're buying things, and are we accumulating them? What's the foresight? Where are we going with those?
Where are we going, Harms Pinnacle?
I'm talking about the big picture.
Oh, okay.
How much is Harms Pinnacle going to cost us in bonding,
In a way.
Jeffrey?
Pardon me?
How much is going to cost us a year, penny-wise, in bonding, Harms Pinnacle track?
The bonding that we've entered into, the money we've already borrowed is 5.5 cents.
The money we already borrowed, plus there's other monies that we've spoken about we're going to need also, correct? So we've already bonded for this year's 5.5 cents.
Correct.
Yes.
Yes. That's what we start with.
So we start with 5.5. What are we at now, 44?
The tax rate,
45 cents.
45 cents.
45, right? 44.74, okay. So we're starting at 5.5 just from bonding. And that's without us, is that bonding for both tracks?
That was the original funding for both
For
tracks.
both, yeah.
Yes.
Is the original funding how much we are going to have to bond for both tracks? Or are we going to have to bond for more?
We have, yes, we have,
wait, let me just say that
Yeah.
I think we have to be careful, because there is a
I'm trying to be
court
careful.
issue.
There's some negotiating going
Yeah.
on. We don't
Yeah.
want to put our cards on the table out in public,
Yeah.
since it's tactical and legal.
I think you guys know. I think you have a clear
I
picture.
I think, Mr. Walsh, the way I can respond to you is because it's dealing with litigation now. It is one of those matters we can respond to you in an analysis, but mark it confidential at this point, and in more detailed understanding of the tax impact until the regular process of declassifying something.
How much was the original bonding for last year?
all told, or for?
Just for
The
this,
original bond.
the Harms Pinnacle.
For Harms Pinnacle was 18
million?
18 point something.
Okay.
Any other general comments on the budget to give
Well, just a
management some
brief
direction?
General comment. I mean, we all, obviously, we feel the pain. We again, this is this is nothing new to us, at least to the three of us, and Mr. Walsh, he's getting up to speed rather quickly. So this is a painful time for everybody involved, and we have to do the best we can with what we have. And don't forget that we have to make this community function still. And I'm all for making it affordable. Believe me, I cringe every time I hear the word taxes. But we have some obligations to the community. And if we did nothing, if we added nothing, if we purchased nothing, we're still going to have a tax increase because of labor agreements and so forth, salaries increases and benefits and so forth. So I don't think that since I've been sitting up here, this is my fourth budget now, that I have said that there's anything in these budgets that is luxury, that's not a complete necessity. At least in my opinion. I'm sure that, people out there some people may feel differently. But we will continue to do that. We'll continue to look like we have been line by line and come up with the very essential items, things that they cannot wait until next year because X could happen. So we need to be mindful that the community must function. Nobody likes a tax increase. Last night we passed a budget for the school board with 13 cents, as the mayor stated, which it's a significant amount of money, and that's the larger portion of our municipal tax that we pay. As people know, 72 cents or 70 cents of each dollar that we pay goes towards the school system, the local. And so, you know, we did it because we want to provide a better, or continue that education that our kids are receiving, which is what most of us, I know I moved here to Howard Township because of that. So, and I'm willing to pay for that. However, like Cynthia said, there's a time where you say, okay, when is enough? Enough is enough. When do we have to say, you know what? Yes, we would like to have this. However, we can't afford it right now. I mean, we do that in our own households, you know, where, you know, we may need a TV, but you know what? We do without it for a while because we can't afford to buy it. So we have to look at that. It's tough, guys. I mean, we can argue about budgets, and no matter what we do or say, somebody out there is going to criticize what we ultimately decide as a group. And I just want to let the people know that whatever I do, and I can quite frankly speak for all of us sitting up here, is that whatever we ultimately decide to do, it's what we feel it's in the best interest of the community at large. Not everybody's going to be happy no matter what we do. So I think we have to stop trying and pleasing everybody all the times, because we end up pleasing no one by doing that. We have to move forward. This community has to function. Bottom line is we're going to need eventually either to fix these buildings or to come up with a new building. That's, you know, that's inevitable. We cannot escape that. That's facing us right in the face. We've been discussing now for 4 years. I've been sitting up here, and we have done nothing about this. Nothing has been done. We need to move forward. It's costing us more each day that we wait. So we need to move forward, you know. And you know what? I'm here in Howard Township, and I'm sure people feel the same way, as long as I can afford to be here. The day I can't afford to pay my taxes, then, you know, North Carolina or Alabama or whatever, here I come. And I love it here. I hope it doesn't come to that.
Are there any additional comments? We need to open up the meeting to the public. I'm going to open up the meeting to the public for any comments or remarks. Anyone who'd like to be heard, please come forward.
Mrs. Solly, while you're waking up, let us thank Mrs. Solly, because in the 5 or 6 years I've been here, she's probably been the only participant in the budget.
Yeah, I love numbers.
If you could just, of course, Mrs. Solly, please give us your name and
Is
address.
this on? Sandra
Yes.
Solly,
Yes.
Birdsall Road,
Welcome, Mrs. Solly.
Farmingdale. I just want to say two things. I go to the historical meetings because I'm a member. I was 1 out of 60 who got their membership back. Everybody wanted it back. Roughly, I think there's about 30 members, so there's about 30 newsletters that get sent out. And the bricks on the walk at the Mackenzie, I don't see that that's a pressing thing that has to be done. There's a pile of bricks behind the porch. If they want to repair some of the bricks that are falling apart, then just use the pile of bricks that are behind the porch. I don't see that we have to spend that money to buy new bricks. Just a thought, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Solly. We
All right,
appreciate
thanks.
those comments. Have a good night.
Well,
Anyone else
you
who'd
had-
like to be heard?
You had like 6 pages there, and I just started a clean sheet here saying, okay.
I got 9 pages. I got 9 pages, and I came in late.
Anyone else who'd like to be heard? Okay. Seeing none, let the record reflect, actually, Mrs. Solly is the only non-member of the media that's actually here this evening, so I will close the public portion. Mrs. Showmaker has asked for a brief executive session. I believe it is on, actually, I don't know what it's on. It's on, what is this qualified
Is it?
as?
Legal.
Legal?
Well, is it litigation?
Litigation.
It is litigation.
Litigation.
Okay, it's litigation. Before we do that, as a general reminder, we have a council meeting, our regular meeting, this coming Tuesday evening, which is the 25th. I believe we begin at 6:30 with executive, is that correct?
Yes.
6:30 with executive session. In addition, this coming Thursday, which is the 27th, the master plan is having another meeting on, I'm sorry, the planning board is having another meeting on the master plan. It is believed to be the final meeting to bring to closure the master plan process now that I believe the public portion is closed, or a majority of the portion has been closed. Is there any other business we need to talk about? Okay. Mr. Davis, would you please read the statement for privilege session, sir?
We will not be coming back out, correct?
We will not be coming back out.
Whereas Title 10, Chapter 4, Section 13 of the New Jersey Revised Statutes require that the public shall not be excluded from any meetings of a public body unless a resolution authorizing such exclusion is adopted at a public meeting. And whereas the Township Council of the Township of Howell has determined that such a closed meeting is required to discuss certain matters which are exempted from consideration with the public in attendance under New Jersey Revised Statutes 10:4-12, namely litigation matters. Now therefore be it resolved by the Township Council of the Township of Howell that the public shall be excluded from the next portion of this meeting, and the Township Council will not reconvene in public session thereafter. Be it further resolved that minutes will be kept of the meeting in closed session, and the time and the circumstances under which the discussion conducted in closed session can be disclosed to the public cannot be determined at this time. I need a motion and second, Mayor.
It's only Thursday. We need a motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any remarks? Okay, again, we will not be returning to public participation once we're concluded in executive. Roll call, please.
Mr. Malabay?
Yes.
Mrs. Showmaker?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mayor DeBella?
Yes.
Need
A motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
All those in favor? Thank you, folks.